The Wonderful World of Dark Lords. Report 47. The Imperium. As we traveled from the Midrim to the Imperium, it soon became clear that the accounts of the difficulty of such travel were no exaggeration. It is no simple task to reckon time in the mists, but it was easily more than a full day's journey, and every minute of it demanded the complete attention of whomever was at the helm. It is a somewhat incongruous thing to hear someone heave a heavy sigh of relief at the experience of emerging into a realm of oppressive, suffocating tyranny. I was particularly grateful that Afra not only knew a path through the mists, but knew one that would deposit us far from any Imperial patrols. As my patron is no doubt aware, the Imperium is a singularly dangerous place for magic users, or even for owners of magic items. Had we passed through a checkpoint, my rings, my bag of holding, and my journal would all have been confiscated, and even without my component pouch as evidence, the mere fact of my possessing so many magic items would have been cause for my arrest and interrogation. For that matter, I had been careful not to let my crewmates see me using magic in the Midrim. Because Afra had initially quoted me a price to take me through the archipelago without providing assistance in her criminal endeavors, I now knew precisely how much that assistance was worth, and it was less than the standard bounty for magic users. The moment they saw me use so much as a cantrip, I would be worth more as cargo than as crew. With that cheerful thought in mind, I journeyed into the Imperium to learn what Dooku's infernal bargain had bought. Welcome to wonderful world of Dark Lords.
Dark Lords.
We're committing to this.
Yeah, buckle up. This is happening 2 more months. I'm Tom.
I'm Rachel.
And we're discussing and sometimes singing how to convert Disney movies to Ravenloft domains of dread, and here's the one you've been waiting for.
Yes, indeed. Along the way, we'll look at the Dark Lord, the domain itself, and some plot hooks and adaptation ideas to integrate this setting into your own campaign.
Today's episode, Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
Darth Vader.
We couldn't get Welcome to Wonderful World of Dark Lords to fit into the cadence of the Imperial March.
We tried.
So Mustafar it is, which Tom informed me right before hitting record is called...
I don't know if it's Battle of the Heroes or Battle of Heroes or Clash of the Heroes, but something of the Heroes,
Which is very confusing because at this point Anakin's no longer a hero, so I don't know what's going on.
I think they're trying to parallel Duel of the Fates.
That's stupid.
Like that's the beginning and this is the end. You know what I mean? Like that's the beginning of this fall to the dark side. This is the end of the fall.
George, not everything has to parallel.
It rhymes. It's like poetry. So speaking of poetry and speaking of repetition, it is quite possible you just clicked on this and saw Darth Vader, which I don't blame you at all. Normally we do Disney movies, but of course this, thanks to the corporate osmosis microorganism expansion of the Disney in the 2000s.
The pop culture empire.
This counts as Disney. And this is part of a series we are doing. May through August is our Star Wars domains. They're all individual pieces of this wider kind of Star Wars Ravenloft we're imagining. And we went over a lot of the basic setting assumptions that we're using for all 4 domains in our May the 4th prologue episode. Mm-hmm. So if you just clicked on this for Darth Vader, I do recommend pausing it and going and listening to that May the 4th prologue episode, because it will lay out some of the assumptions. But if, like Anakin Skywalker, you won't let anyone tell you what to do.
You're impatient.
Yeah, and you're impatient. Then we'll give you a real quick TLDR of the kind of things we went through in more detail in the prologue. If you want to hear us talk more, explain our thought process, why we made some of these choices, listen to the prologue.
Yes.
Number 1, so this is not a space setting. It's not even a Spelljammer setting. That was too clashing with kind of the typical Ravenloft.
Are you going to go from Curse of Strahd to Spelljammer? What's going on?
You get on a spaceship and fly to Star Wars. So we are imagining this cluster of domains is a giant archipelago. So instead of planets, we have islands. Mm-hmm. We are imagining there are basically steampunk, Eberron, Magitech level technology. So you can either have it as like steampunk Nautilus style boats that they're traveling from island to island. So the Millennium Falcon can be a boat, or it could be airships. Mm-hmm. The Millennium Falcon could be an airship. And you even have a great model of that in the Wookiee ornithopters in episode 3.
Yeah. For this episode in particular, I really like not doing airships for reasons we'll get to soon.
So then Second point, Darth Vader, but wait, what about Palpatine? Shouldn't he be the Dark Lord? No, wrong, incorrect.
Incorrect.
So, in our imagining, Palpatine did not fit as a Dark Lord when we were originally planning Star Wars because he just doesn't have a torn. He's living his best life.
Living his best evil life.
Also, he's connected with so many other natural Dark Lords, like, for example, Darth Vader.
Or Count Dooku, our previous Dark Lord.
So we decided he is instead a kind of source of Dark Lords. He is an archdevil. He has been summoned from the Hells
By Count
Dooku. And he is in this Ravenloft world an agent of the Dark Powers. He tempts and corrupts other people into becoming Dark Lords. That's one of the things we have is all 4 of our Dark Lords are corrupted by Palpatine.
Yes.
And he, has the sort of human disguise of Emperor Palpatine. But he's an archdevil.
Yes.
And speaking of, the Sith and the Imperial Inquisitors, which we'll talk about more in this setting, are, just for simplicity's sake, they're Infernal Warlocks Palpatine.
Because that just makes things
right,
easier.
and it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of emotional sense.
Yes, absolutely.
That to become a Sith is to pledge yourself to a binding contract with Palpatine.
And then they're just packed to the blading along with their lightsabers.
Speaking of simplicity's sake, this is free, and we're not going to do a whole new magic system, so we are just saying the Jedi are not like a power system. We're not using the Force as a power system. We're just saying in this setting, there was this order called the Jedi that was an order of holy warriors that sort of believed in goodness and life and light. And some of them had paladin levels and some of them had cleric levels, but they all thought of themselves as Jedi.
And if you listen to our Dooku episode, they might have started out as druids and kind of shifted along the way. We came up with that on mic. That was fun.
Then finally, this was the tricky one. So the archipelago is divided into different regions. Those are our different domains. Those different regions are not only spatially different, they also represent different points on the Star Wars timeline. Because this is a tricky thing that there's that big timeline, and the ideas for Dark Lords, we had one across that timeline. But we kind of need to have them in some way coexist.
Yeah.
So our idea is when the mist comes around a domain, it almost totally cuts it off from the others.
Yes.
And so there's a kind of these isolated little, aquariums of these different political situations. So in our Count Dooku episode, the Clone Wars is still raging. If you go to that part of the archipelago, the Clone Wars is still raging, full-fledged, 2 equally matched sides. Against the Separatists, against the Republic. But in this part, with the fall of Anakin Skywalker, we had this section of the archipelago, became its own Ravenloft domain, and this is the war is over. The Republic has become the Empire, and that's where we are.
And you might have a couple of really daring, talented smugglers who can make the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, who can navigate the mistways between these various archipelagos. But for the most part, it's just as far as they know, these other domains don't even exist.
Yeah,
They've been cut off.
Yeah. Taking a little Warhammer 40k. They're cut off by this big space interference.
Yeah.
So, this domain we are calling the core.
And no, we're not. We're calling it the hub, because the core is something different.
Yes, we are. I'll just go.
Yeah.
This domain we are calling the hub. It is sort of the center of the archipelago. It's where a lot of the oldest and most prosperous are. In our canon, it's where Coruscant, the capital, City Island was. And this is a place where, as we said, the Clone Wars have ended. The Republic won, but it won by becoming the Empire.
Yeah.
And so here we have a tyrannical dictatorship and a rebel alliance that opposes them.
And if you're primarily a Star Wars person and maybe this is your first episode, you might be saying, why aren't you calling it the core? They're the core worlds. If you're a Ravenloft person, you know why. It's because the core in old Ravenloft is something different. It's where Barovia is. It's like the central Ravenloft continent in old Ravenloft. And we refer to it a lot. And that's going to get real confusing. So you figure, there's the outer rim, there's the mid rim, there's kind of this wheel imagery. So the center of a wheel is the hub.
So that's sort of disclaimer number 1. TLDR, our May the 4th sort of introductory episode. Then this episode of all of them requires a second disclaimer. So we sat down to work on the outline. And if you've ever listened to us before, you know that one of the final things, I think the final thing we always talk about, is the strengths and weaknesses of running a game in this domain. And I did the strengths, and Rachel, we were talking about the weaknesses. And then Rachel's like, one of the weaknesses, why are you not
the very first one.
Why are you not just playing a Star Wars game?
Yes.
And I was like, I don't have an answer to that question.
Because this is just like, the problem is Vader works too well as a Dark Lord. And this works just kind of too well as a D&D fantasy setting. You could just kind of like pick everything up and just plop it in the middle of Ravenloft, and you don't need us. You can just go.
Yes.
But why are you going to listen to us talk for 2 hours if that's the case?
So, we kind of went back and we thought really hard about what can we do that's not just do Star Wars in Ravenloft, in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, or just play a Star Wars role-playing game.
Or just play a Star Wars game.
Play Edge of the Empire. Play Saga Edition if you want to do D20. Like, it'll translate, a lot of the gameplay mechanics will translate pretty straightforwardly for your 5e players. I know there is a 5e Star Wars hack you can just Google and find.
Nice.
So, yeah, we said kind of the thing we need to do to make this worth your time.
Yes.
He said, hopefully, is we need to make this a much more D&D Ravenloft-ified setting. So I think of all the domains we're going to do, this will be the one that's the most different from the canon and the core. And that's on purpose because we're trying to give you something that you can't get just from, you know, going and watching the original trilogy and Googling for that 5e Star Wars hack. So we want to give you here Clone Wars. It was very much like a very faithful adaptation of the Clone Wars Star Wars setting. Whereas this, we are trying to give you a domain that's much more a Dungeons and Dragons setting inspired by Star Wars.
Yes.
So, the person, the man, the myth, the legend, the one who makes it all worthwhile.
Goodness, yes.
The Dark Lord who writes himself and makes it worth all this trouble and launch an entire 4-episode series. Let's talk about the Dark Lord of our Dungeons and Dragons Star Wars inspired Ravenloft domain. Let's talk about Darth Vader in a section we like to call
The Lord Vader. The Lord. I mentioned in my last report that Afra's bloodthirsty Warforged had referred to an Emperor Palpatine, which had ominous implications for the Artificer War. Even a cursory examination of Imperial history proved that my misgivings were well-founded. Outside of the Midrim, it is common knowledge that the Republic has defeated the Separatists. Historical accounts claim that the war largely ended with the death of Count Dooku, who, of course, is very much alive. I took this for propaganda at first, but something stranger may be at work. What is certainly propaganda, however, is the assertion that the Jedi immediately took advantage of the chaos, attempting to assassinate Chancellor Palpatine and seize control of the Republic. Having met a handful of Jedi in the Midrim, I can no more imagine them conspiring against a lawful government than I can imagine Gaston giving a woman an enjoyable evening. This manufactured insurrection gave Palpatine the pretext he needed to declare himself Emperor and to order the arrest first of the Jedi, then of all magic users, save artificers, whose skills are not seen as magical here. Although the Emperor is adamant that all casters are to be taken alive, none have ever been seen again after their capture. There are 2 exceptions to this ban on magic use: the Inquisitors, a group of warlocks tasked with hunting down their fellow casters, and the Emperor's right-hand man, Darth Vader. Vader's past is shrouded in mystery, but from what I was able to piece together, he's a former Jedi who heroically turned on his fellows when he saw their treacherous intentions toward Palpatine. Surely the thought of becoming the second most powerful man in the archipelago was the last thing on his mind when he made this selfless decision. I was surprised to learn that Dr. Afra had extensive first-hand experience with Vader, whom she described as, quote, foul your trousers terrifying. In fact, I soon learned that she expected me to take a particularly active role in our criminal endeavors in the Imperium so she could maximize her chances of avoiding him. Most of what she said was nothing I could not have learned from others, for Vader plays his cards close to his chest, and serving him gave her little insight into his personal goals, methods, and motivations, beyond confirming that even the most horrifying rumors of him were true. She verified that he is a deadly warrior, a skilled practitioner of magic, and a man utterly without mercy. She did, however, provide me with 2 interesting pieces of information. One is that, despite no longer being a Jedi, as they no longer exist, Vader still has a religious view of magic. Unlike the Inquisitors, he does not see it as a mere means of personal power, but as something worthy of veneration in its own right. The other is that he is not entirely Palpatine's creature. Afra refused to talk about any specifics of her time in Vader's service. She was not exaggerating her fear of him. but allowed that she had been helping him to build his own power base and to pursue an agenda beyond Palpatine's purview. It seems that the Emperor's dog has decided his leash is too short for his liking.
I mean, he's Darth Vader. What do you say? He is one of the greatest villains of pop culture.
Yes, my gosh. He's like, he's up there with Dracula. Like,
yeah, no, he is one of the iconic, like, bad guys, monsters, symbols of evil of, like, the post-war period.
Yeah.
And he also is not just an amazing villain, but he specifically, as Rachel mentioned earlier, makes an amazing Ravenloft Dark Lord. It is so perfect. But, once again, the number of people who know who Darth Vader is, the number of people who know what a Ravenloft Dark Lord is, very disparate.
Extremely.
Very disproportionate equation. So, in case you're one of those first group, and not the second, Rachel, what is a Dark Lord?
Well, a Dark Lord is an evil being who commits some kind of act of ultimate darkness that causes the dark powers to say, why, hello, new friend, we want to play with you forever. And so they pluck that evil being up and they place them in a domain which is a special hell tailor-made just for them. There are some really great Dark Lords. There are some really not so great Dark Lords. So we are going to talk about the 4 qualities that separate the Strahd von Zaroviches from the Uruk von Karkovs. I'm going to pick on him because Darth Vader is such a great Dark Lord that I don't have any, like, parallel bad Lord to go with him. He's just too great. So, sorry, Uruk von Karkov. We haven't picked on you in a while. So, the first of those 4 qualities is that act of ultimate darkness. They don't just become a Dark Lord by attrition, unlike Uruk von Karkov. They do some specific evil thing that draws the Dark Power's attention. And in Strahd's case, it was that he killed his brother because he wanted to get with his brother's fiancée, and also possibly killed the wedding guests, depending on whether you go with the Vampire of the Mists version of events or the I Strahd version of events. Put a pin in that. This is important. I'm not just flexing.
Yeah, okay.
If you're a regular listener, you're like, wait a minute.
Wait, what? Something's different today.
Our second element is what they call in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft the Torment, because we're a Disney podcast, we call it they got what they wanted, they lost what they had. And in Strahd's case, it's congratulations, your brother's out of the way, you're a vampire, so you have eternal youth, so you're not too old for Titania anymore, but you're too Strahd for Titania, and you always will be. Our third element is an element of tragedy and relatability. They're not just evil for the sake of being evil. There's something about them that makes us wince in sympathy. And in Strahd's case, it's that unrequited love is just the worst. And then the fourth element is that the domain reflects the Dark Lord and their curse in some way. Strahd is the Dark Lord of spooky gothic vampire land. He is not the Dark Lord of a galaxy far, far away. And his domain is a boring mud slump to reflect that curse of loneliness. He will never find someone to fill that hole in his heart that Titania left, even if he wanted to, because there's no one interesting in Barovia to fill it.
But the regular listener's like, oh, phew, back to normal. Oh, good.
I'm scared.
Oh, good. Everything's back to normal. So, if you were listening to those qualities of a Dark Lord, you could probably do the next part of saying, this is how Darth Vader is all of those things.
Because Jiminy Shasbot writes it.
Golly potatoes. So, one of the silliest things in working on the DM's Guild write-ups. Rachel doesn't know where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. But it's when I have to write the backstory for the Dark Lord. Because I have to, like, write it out and I feel silly. Because it's like everybody knows.
Oh my gosh,
like,
yes.
You know, before we started the Star Wars series, our April thing was K-pop Demon Hunters, and I had to kind of try and write a very succinct version of the first, like, half hour of K-pop Demon Hunters. And I'm like, I'm trying to be clear and have all the elements of the story, but I'm also trying to be super succinct.
Yes.
So, in my notes, I cannot do this in the actual write-up. I have to make these sentences and paragraphs like an idiot. But I can just say, powerful Jedi, secret wife, Palpatine, blah, blah, blah. Like,
you'll know.
So Palpatine, archdevil. It's Anakin Skywalker. He has Anakin Skywalker's life. For a specific act of ultimate darkness. The nice thing is, as we said with Dooku, we have in the cosmology of Star Wars the pledging yourself as a Sith. Mm-hmm. Then it's always accompanied by some great atrocity.
Yeah. That
if you watch the Tales of the Jedi miniseries about Count Dooku, which I really recommend, then it's the whole sort of right between episode 1 and 2, he's become a Sith, he's pledged himself to Palpatine, but he does this great evil thing that kind of like seals the deal. Mm-hmm. Anakin, feel like I don't need to say how he seals the deal. But much like with Strahd, who makes this pact with the dark powers and then kills one to all of the wedding guests, he makes this pact with Palpatine. He makes this warlock pact with him. He becomes his apprentice, and then he seals the deal. He kills one too many younglings.
One too many younglings.
He also kills his wife Padme in a fit of sort of rage and jealousy, and dramatic sting.
Hang on. So the reason I was being self-indulgent, listeners, is that, Padme's kind of the Sergei here, and the younglings are kind of the wedding. Like, killing the younglings, like, don't get me wrong, that's horrible. That's worse than killing Padme, because they're kids.
In a court trial, if you were arrested and put on trial, that would be the worst charge.
But, like, the emotional weight thing, it's killing Padme, because that's the entire reason why.
Plus it gives you the dramatic irony of, like, he's doing all these evil things in the name of saving Padme.
Yes.
So he kills Padme, and, dramatic music sting here, kills her unborn children.
Yes.
No Luke, no Leia. That's divergent point number 1. No Luke, no Leia. They died in utero.
Yep. Your PCs are now the heroes.
Yep.
They don't have anybody else coming in to steal their thunder.
Fated chosen one protagonist in this. And then after he killed his wife and his children, he battled his former mentor, Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan defeated the battle, and dramatic music sting number 2. We're gonna have a bleep swear now. Fucking killed him.
He did fucking kill him.
He is dead. Anakin Skywalker died in the battle. Obi-Wan did not just leave him there to burn to death like a real jerk.
Because this was when we were working on the original outline, and it was too much like Star Wars, and we're just sitting there staring at it like, why are we making this episode even? Like, other than to be self-indulgent, which, is reason enough.
I like Star Wars.
And I got my idea face, which Tom can tell you all about my idea face. And I was like, honey, he, was completely defeated and destroyed and, taken down to nothing, and then brought back through horrible, unnatural, transgressive acts. In D&D terms, he's undead.
He's an undead.
He died, and Palpatine brought him back through necromancy.
Yes. Nailed it.
Thank you.
That's the thing. I didn't that fit? Doesn't that feel so right as a D&D-ification of Darth Vader?
Yes.
And even that does take away. Also, having the kids die takes away the possibility of redemption. That was that initial point of hesitation. No, he's a Dark Lord, he's unredeemable. This is an unredeemable Darth Vader.
And there even is, I'm going to go on a tangent here because I read the...
lie, baby.
I read the Darth Vader comics in preparation for this episode because I love the Darth Vader comics, as you can probably tell. You can probably tell from the fact that Dr. Aphra is in our fiction. But there's this whole thing with these other, mechanical Force user guys that Palpatine is bringing in as potential replacements for Vader. And Vader is I love this. He's more religious than Palpatine. He's religious at all. And he's this is blasphemy. And Palpatine's well, I know they are, but what are you?
Yeah, so are you, buddy boy.
And, this is kind of the version of that. Of the, you are undead, you are a sin against the Force, you should not exist, you have no room to talk about anything.
And even, he was this super high-level paladin.
Yeah.
And now he's been brought back as an undead. So, he does this, he is awakened as an undead. The hub was part of the Clone Wars, part of Dooku's domain, and then this rose around it, pulled it into its own domain with this new undead domain lord as it became the Vast Galactic Empire.
I love you.
So, torment, or what we like to call it. He got what he wanted, he lost what he had. Well, he sure got what he wanted.
You've seen them. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
He is the most powerful Jedi. He showed them all. He broke all the rules. He broke all his oaths. He lost everything that he had that gave his life meaning. His wife, his children, his friends, his body. He exists in a living hell of undeath to serve the Empire.
Yeah.
And now no one gets to tell him what to do except Palpatine, who has absolute authority over him.
You were talking about this, Palpatine has absolute authority over him, but Palpatine's horrible, and in the movies is planning to replace him with Luke. He is just going to replace him with the next most powerful shiny guy who comes along.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he doesn't even get that satisfaction and pleasure of loyalty that a Thrawn gets.
Yeah.
That he just knows that he's trapped in this hell. serving this monster who will discard him the moment he ceases to be useful.
That's so good. So good. Right. That is a man, every moment of his existence is he's in the hell of his own creation.
Yes.
And we don't have to do anything. We don't have to add anything to that.
Mm-hmm.
So, then we have the element of tragedy and relatability, and once again, you know what, like, I say about the prequels, episode 3, I think, really nailed it. He is such a tragic character. That there is, like, was well-intended, there was so many points he could have turned away.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he is always by his own flaws.
His own pride, his own fear.
His own fear, his own pride, his own just everything. There's always those flaws stop him from all of those moments he could have changed his path.
I was just laughing because we were rewatching episode 3 in preparation for this episode. And Tom we hadn't watched it in a while. And Tom was like, this is a really good movie. And then we got to Palpatine is evil. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. We were like,
oh, wow, okay.
This is a good movie.
Like, yeah. This movie's, like, really good. Love can't save you, Padme. Only my new powers can. This movie's pretty good. But yes, like, I really think that the plot construction is perfect in terms of, like, he's legitimately well-intended. He's legitimately very ill-used by the Jedi. The Jedi are, like, so, hidebound and stagnant and rigid that, like, they're sort of driving him away.
Even kind of the main voice of the Jedi he's interacting with, other than Obi-Wan, is Mace Windu, who has such a stick up his butt.
Yes.
Such a big purple stick up his butt.
Indeed.
And no people skills. Like,
yes.
He does not know how to handle Anakin.
And yeah, so just it's that perfect kind of Ouroboros that makes the very best and most relatable tragedies of this is a person who's legitimately well-intentioned and legitimately wronged by a lot of the things around them, but is ultimately driven by their own flaws.
Yeah. And we were watching some Clone Wars also. And there are the episodes in Clone Wars where you have Anakin committing
lots of war crimes.
Minor war crimes.
Minor to major war crimes. Some to all of war crimes.
I love you. And it's like, because he's being put in this situation where, like, number one, he's kind of being pushed more and more toward moral flexibility in the face of pragmatism. But also he's being pushed more and more toward fascism because, like, Palpatine is deliberately putting him in these situations where it's like, look, this is the alternative, buddy. It's the Empire or bust.
Yeah, the only way to, like, hear all these soldiers you care about and are bonded with, and the only way to save their lives is brutal destruction. The Geneva Conventions aren't going to keep your men alive.
Yeah.
And yes, so just so perfect. And then Domain reflects the Dark Lord's personality curse. This is occasionally challenging. This is the easiest one we have ever done.
Yes, like I think even easier than the Pride Lands.
Yes, because this is so baked into Star Wars. This was baked into Star Wars decades before the prequel trilogy. This was baked into Star Wars with the original trilogy, that the corruption and fall of Anakin Skywalker is the corruption and fall of the Republic.
Yes.
They're like,
so good.
Darth Vader is the physical manifestation of the Empire.
Yes.
The Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader is the Republic becoming the Empire.
Being corrupted and brought down by Palpatine.
Yes, exactly.
So good.
That he is the manifestation of the Empire. He is powerful. He is merciless. He is cruel. He is completely under Palpatine's control. He is kind of the incarnation of the war machine and of the
literal
tyranny
machine.
of the jackboot. He is the jackboot stamping down on your face. And that also he's in so much pain and agony. That like he is in a hell. They're like, no, it's not even like he's like, yes, in the Empire. Yes, triumph. It's like, no, he is in a living hell. And all he can do is kind of express that by hurting others.
Yeah,
and
for
oppressing
choking
others.
everyone who fails him.
And then I know you even brought this up, which is, I never thought about it. It's so perfect.
Yeah, that Return of the Jedi, his death is the death of the Empire.
Yes.
When he kills the Emperor and dies, it's like, no, the death of Darth Vader is the death of the Empire.
Yes, when he is redeemed, it is the end of the Empire.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, don't say anything. He is the manifestation of the Empire. The Empire is the extension of his inner self.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna take over this because Coraline just went on her scratching post and completely threw Tom off his groove. Yeah. So, like, listeners, you're in for a real,
Beware the groove.
Beware the groove. So, in Van Norton's Guide to Ravenloft, they always say that the Dark Lord has stats similar to A, although by the time this drops, it's June, so soon we're going to be getting the new book, which is going to have actual stat blocks in it. I don't know what we're going to do.
Still not planning to do actual stat blocks. We have to do one of these a month, and they're for free.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
make your own stat blocks.
Maybe we'll add, like, a higher Patreon tier for the stat blocks. I don't know. That would be your job. I'm not going to give you work. But anyway, so it's always stats similar to A. And the stats we picked for Vader were what started us down this path of holy potatoes, Vader is undead. Because Vader has stats similar to a Death Knight.
Death Knight.
Because obviously.
Right. I even suggested this, and you were like, Soth is the Dragonlance Vader.
Yes.
Like, he is Darth Vader in Dragonlance.
I think Margaret Weiss even described him as Darth Vader in Dragonlance.
Yes, he's Darth Vader in Dragonlance. Yeah. And so that actual, some of the future things in the setting, in terms of making it a little more D&D, we also, that then kind of pointed us to borrowing from Dragonlance for some things we'll get to, so hold that thought.
Because if you're a long-time listener, you know that my breadth of D&D knowledge is not great. My depth of D&D knowledge is extraordinary and limited to Ravenloft and Dragonlance. So.
I remember I was telling her about the new 5e Dragonlance book, and I mentioned something about, like, you're going to this thing called the Kingfisher Festival, and somebody online was like, it's related to some god. And she was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Obviously.
It's a Kingfisher. Oh my god. Is it Habakkuk or Kiri Jalith? Oh.
Habakkuk, I think.
Okay.
Because it was a weird Bible name.
I'm embarrassed. I'm so embarrassed.
But yes. I mean, that gives you a lot of Darth Vader right there, is the Death Knight. Because it's got the, like, flame blade, it's got a bunch of spells, it's got necromantic stuff, which is a very Darth Vader vibe.
Yeah. Like, especially for having him be undead, and he could just have, like, his undead stormtroopers. Like, ooh, I love that.
But just to give you some specific powers as a Dark Lord to make sure we get maximum Darth Vader. That, number one, I love this, he has his Force Choke.
Yes.
Which is, he does a spell attack, and if he succeeds, you're restrained. And you can make a save on your turn to break free, and if you fail the save, you get a level exhaustion. So you can't just 6 turns force choke you out.
Yep.
And Death Knights have a lot of great, like, undead and necrotic abilities, but we're like, you know what, he's Darth Vader, he has to have a fear power.
Oh, yeah.
So he has a fear aura, that he just has an aura that he can force you to make a wisdom save, or have the frightened condition, because he's Darth frickin' Vader.
Darth frickin' Vader.
And then we have, of course, that you can also just give him whatever spells see fit for Darth Vader stuff.
Yeah, so, for all your Jedi things.
Right, give him Mage Hand, give him Detect Thoughts.
Because he can sense your feelings, especially about your sister.
He also, even more useful than his crazy Death Knight stat block, he has the absolute obedience of a huge Imperial army and war machine. He has the government at every level, so he's the right-hand man of the Emperor. He cuts through, like, every level of the bureaucracy. He just gets whatever he wants from any Imperial authorities around. Also, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's the best starfighter pilot he's ever known. And so he's an amazing pilot, like whatever system you want to use, whether it's steampunk ships, whether it's a Wookiee ornithopter type things, whether it's Spelljammer, he is like, a +9 in whatever stat you're using for piloting.
Yeah.
That he is just an amazing pilot. And then the power that all Dark Lords have, because you might say to yourself, you know what, there are better places to be than this horrible, tyrannical dictatorship. Closing the borders.
This was tricky.
This was really tricky. But you had a great idea.
I did. Thank you. Because the thing I came up with was the closest we see in the movies to Vader closing the borders is his ability to track people. That it's either like, New Hope, where he's able to track them back to Yavin, or like, Empire Strikes Back, where he's looking for the Millennium Falcon and they're just, they're looping around, but Boba Fett's able to follow them and they can't escape. So he closes the borders. You come out of the mist in a different part of the Empire. It's still the same domain. It's open ocean, so you don't necessarily know right away that you are still in the Empire. You might think that you're on, like, the Sea of Sorrows or something. And then he can scry to try to find you, and you have disadvantage on the save against being scry.
Yes.
Because it's not that he automatically succeeds, because, like, Luke gets away from him at the end of Empire.
Yes.
So he doesn't automatically succeed, but you have disadvantage on the save.
Love that.
Thank you.
So,
I was proud of that.
then that's him represented mechanically. Then we have him represented more as an NPC. You're going to be role-playing as a DM. And once again, I feel like we don't need a lot to tell you about how to do your Darth Vader. Like,
no.
you just get as deep as you can and go... And... quote Star Wars, which I imagine you do at your table a lot anyway. But for form's sake,
yes,
we have our role-playing trait, ideal, bond, and flaw. And in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, these are always in the form of quotes. Once again, the new Ravenloft book is coming out soon. I don't know if they're going to have this
they're usually
for
quotes, so
the NPCs, but even if they don't, we're going to continue this because it's our tradition now.
It's fun.
And we mentioned this with Count Dooku, if you listen to that one. Once again, I kind of keep these shorter, keep these quicker, because there's so much.
Yes.
Like, there are not just, potentially 6 movies and 7 seasons of the Clone Wars to potentially draw from. There are literally hundreds of books and comics.
Yes.
With Darth Vader in them.
Yes. We tried to stick to the movies as much as possible because, there's so much good stuff in the movies, and they're the thing everyone knows.
Yeah, that's 90% of you, that's going to be your Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It's going to be the movies.
We did, for our flaw, the perfect quote was in Rebels. So
yes, it was.
Our flaws from Star Wars Rebels, but everything else.
You should watch, it's great.
It's amazing.
But others, role-playing trait, ideal, bond, and flaw, the movies, and we'll start with role-playing trait. This was tricky because there's, so much.
Yes.
And we're what we finally settled on was, of course, the classic. You have failed me for the last time, Admiral. Captain Piet, make ready to land our troops beyond their energy field and deploy the fleet so that nothing gets off the system. You are in command now, Admiral Piet.
It's the classic moment, and you get him being the leader, you get him doing the strategy and the tactics, and just Vadering it up.
He's a cunning warrior, to quote Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is a good general. He's a skilled military leader, and even just the absolute ruthlessness, but the ruthless efficiency.
Yes. He's not going to kill you for no reason.
Yeah. He's not Palpatine. He's not just cackling and shooting Force lightning at random people.
I hate Palpatine.
But it's the brutal efficiency. And even just that brutal, cutting through all the hierarchy of, you're in command now, Admiral Piet. And then ideal, we have to have something that speaks to this idea that on some level he thinks he's, doing the right thing still.
There is, it wasn't just Anakin getting seduced to the dark side. He was also getting seduced to this fascism, to the idea of a strong leader who can make people do.
Right, exactly. They must be made to agree. If they cannot agree, someone should make them agree.
Yeah, and he still is a jackbooted fascist in his heart.
So our long wind-up to our ideal for Darth Vader. With our combined strength, we could end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy. If you only knew the power of the dark side. We have to include, there's the ideal of I am bringing order to the galaxy, I am bringing peace. All of this evil I am doing is justified because it is in the name of peace.
Yes.
And then we have to have that sort of final, if you only knew the power of the dark side.
Yeah, because that man loves power and the dark side. And the bond was the hardest. We really struggled with what his bond was. Because especially, one of Vader's whole things is destroying all his bonds. If you've dove into the ancillary material, other than Luke, and again, Luke is dead, so that's not a thing.
Right, yeah.
If you've dove into the ancillary material, he went to kill Ahsoka. He's gunning for Obi-Wan constantly. There are a couple points where he has, Force visions, where he has a chance to, be with Padme, and he's nope, I'm good. This is a man who wants to burn all his bridges,
right.
But the bridge he's stuck with is the bridge to Palpatine. The bridge he built and chose, and has to be on every day.
It must be about Palpatine. Mm-hmm. And so we have the super unappreciated scene in Return of the Jedi, because it's just him and Luke, walking and talking. Nothing fancy happens. But I really think that's just a really, really amazingly acted scene. And you don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
Oh my gosh.
I must obey my master.
Spicy hot take, Return of the Jedi is my favorite.
I love you.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's unappreciated.
Yeah, no, hit me up on the Discord if you want details, because I feel like this one's going to run long. But I love, or in the YouTube comments, but I love Return of the Jedi. It's not even close.
And then finally we have the flaw, which was, once again, this is the one we went to Rebels, because it's so good. It's the scene at the end of Rebels Season 2, where he confronts Ahsoka, and who was, once again, if you only know the movies, Ahsoka was Anakin Skywalker's apprentice, and she, throughout season 2, she's from Order 66, and she's like started to think that Darth Vader might be Anakin, but then she has something like, my master could never be as vile as you, and then he says, Anakin Skywalker was weak, I destroyed him.
Flaw.
Bam! Maximum perfect flaw.
Maximum perfect flaw. Ugh.
So, we mentioned Darth Vader is the, living incarnation of the Empire. This is what the easiest to do for the domain reflecting the Dark Lord. Now let's talk about that domain, which is the reflection of this Dark Lord, in a section we like to call
the land. The land. I have surveyed several despotic domains over the past 4 years, but the sheer scale of the Imperium makes it feel stifling in a way that the others did not. Titan and the grid were largely limited to a single city and its environs. The only good thing I can possibly say about Titan is that it was small enough for escape to feel within reach. The Wild Witches of the Boiling Isles and the Court of Miracles of Notre Dame were vocal enough that meaningful resistance felt achievable. The Imperium, however, is so vast and so relentless that one can almost believe them to be as omnipotent as they claim to be. This is not to say that there is no meaningful resistance in the Imperium. Rebel cells are a constant thorn in their side, as well as a convenient scapegoat whenever they wish to tighten their stranglehold on the citizenry. Some of these rebels, such as the infamous Saw Gerrera, are little more than terrorists, and their reckless disregard for civilian casualties only gives the Empire more evidence that they and they alone can protect the people from these dangerous insurgents. There are rumors that other rebel cells are more temperate, and that attempts to frame all of them as dangerous extremists is further propaganda, but, of course, the truth of these rumors is difficult to pin down. While the credibility of the Imperium is non-existent, and it is certainly in their best interest to paint all opposition to them as villainous, it is also in the best interest of the rebels to portray themselves as heroic. Still, I must believe that things are not as bleak as they appear. As mentioned, however, the rebellion's case is bolstered by the sheer level of corruption present within the Imperium, corruption which puts to lie the empty promises of tyranny. No one willingly sacrifices their autonomy, their dignity, and their self-respect without cause. They do it because the tyrant promises that if they submit to his rule, they will be protected. Those who do not obey will be punished, the reasoning goes, but those who serve loyally will be protected both from their master's enemies and from the masters themselves. This is often a lie, and it is certainly a lie within the Imperium. One might choose to disregard the rumors that several of the most violent rebel insurrections were staged so that certain troublesome or strategically valuable islands would beg for stronger imperial control. It is impossible, however, to overlook the role that sheer avarice plays in imperial decision-making. In my previous report, I mentioned the prominence of wealthy and rapacious governments in the Confederacy of Independent Islands. Many similarly predatory regimes have been assimilated into the Imperium and are given a remarkably free hand as long as their taxes continue to line Palpatine's coffers. There were citizens of former separatist islands who hoped that a Republic victory would save them from governors who were little more than slave masters, or from crime syndicates whose administration was nothing but an island-wide protection racket. They hoped in vain, for their wealthy rulers are more precious to the Imperium than the common people can ever be. It seems that the Imperium has combined the worst aspects of the Republic and the Separatists, then outdone them both. The people have no rights, only privileges that are granted at Palpatine's pleasure and can be revoked just as easily.
So, the land that Darth Vader is the Dread Lord, the Dark Lord of, as in Ravenloft, as in Star Wars, we
He's
have
the Dark Lord of the Sith.
Empire.
And the Empire.
So, the Empire, or we're probably going to call it in the write-up, the Imperium.
We already did the treasure planet, but that's okay.
Doesn't matter. There's multiple Imperiums. A quick glance
Imperium archipelagos.
at history will show you there have been multiple Imperiums.
That's true.
So, yeah, Star Wars is the Empire. It's a tyrannical dictatorship. It's full of space Nazis. We are specifically setting our kind of canon more around, Andor or Rebels like a couple of years before, the Battle of Yavin era, the Star Wars New Hope era for people that aren't as much nerds. And it's because we really think it's dramatically, narratively fruitful to have this idea of like, the Rebel Alliance is forming, but they're not there yet.
Yeah, so there are a bunch of, like, individual Rebel groups, and maybe some of them are starting to come together, but other times we're going to get, like, that thing at the beginning of Season 2 of Andor where you've got two different Rebel groups who aren't talking to each other.
Just shooting at each other. And so it's a war, but it's a very different war than the Clone Wars, than the Mid-Rim. It's not like full-scale, mechanized, equally matched sides. It's one extremely powerful military juggernaut versus an insurgency, a guerrilla war. A kind of small, cell-based, still pretty scattershot guerrilla war. So one thing that we talked about trying to make it a little more D&D flavored. I think we have a nice analog here. You could go for very, like, Robin Hood flavored.
Yeah. Also, it occurs to me, since we're doing an archipelago, you could also have them be pirates.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's kind of the best equivalent of Rebels. So you've got pirate ships, maybe these little one-piece stuff, and if you've got the sort of bigger islands with more land, with mountains, with forests, you could do a very Robin Hood, like have like the treehouse fort, like Robin Hood, or like Jet and the Freedom Fighters in Avatar, and that whole sort of like fun forest rebel thing.
And everybody wants to be good pirates, come on.
Indeed.
You want to buckle swatch.
And that is, even, if I recall correctly, the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves Treehouse toy set was just a reprint of the Endor.
You do recall correctly.
So you can even draw on a lot of the Endor, a lot of the Ewok imagery. Kind of one of the core ideas would be that, like, the little forest teddy bear people ambushing the like the mechanized war machine.
Yeah.
And that's also still a very D&D vibe to go with. So we are having it be that kind of pre-Rebel Alliance. We are having no Luke, no Leia. And as we kind of mentioned, I think hopefully that was even obvious when we said we're not going to have Luke and Leia. It's because it gives that space for your PCs to be the main characters. And there's one kind of thing we're adding to the sort of canon. We're building off of the Inquisitors and the Jedi Purge stuff. And we'll talk more about why in just a little bit. But we are having it be that the Imperium is specifically after not only our kind of Jedi, our kind of divine magic users, clerics, paladins, etc., they are after all magic users.
Yes.
And they're after magic items. That they will confiscate and seize any magic items, and anyone caught using magic is disappeared.
Okay, well, I mean, because obviously that means they're in league with the Jedi.
Yeah, obviously.
And, the Jedi were the ones who could make magic items. I do think, actually, this is live, baby. Like, flavor-wise, I think we need to make an exception for artificers. But, like, other than that, Star Wars is chock-a-block with artificers.
Oh, sure, no. I mean, that's
other
like,
than that.
in the fiction, they're not, like, even really magic users. It's just tech guys. They happen to use magic rules. But, like, wizards, sorcerers, other warlocks, like, druids, anybody, monks, if they're too flashy.
Yeah.
Anybody who manifests supernatural powers gets arrested, gets disappeared. And once again, I think this kind of gives it a little bit more of a D&D flavor.
Yes.
Like, going after Jedi is a very specific Star Wars thing, but having it be going after, like, all magic is forbidden, and any magic user is going to be arrested and disappeared. That's a bit more of a D&D kind of Ravenloft setting element.
Yeah, and it fits, like, if you go to the Empire, and it's the whole Inquisitors are hunting down Jedi, but then you've got, like, your wizard and your cleric of not the Force, like, just kind of flashing magic around. That doesn't feel right. So this is the way to have that kind of, like, underground Jedi post-Order 66 feeling and be more D&D at the same time. So, and
almost certainly your party includes some magic user. I don't know if I've ever been in a party with absolutely zero any kind of even just your bard. Yeah. Like, if they do prestidigitation or something too flashy. And as I've mentioned in a couple of episodes, I love it when we can come up with a premise where your PCs, just by entering the setting, are pulled into the story. Like, they don't need to go do stuff for the Empire to be after them. Like, as soon as your wizard or your monk or your sorcerer or your heaven help us, your cleric, do their thing, they've got a target on their back and they're pulled into this political intrigue, anti-tyranny, fugitive escape story.
Yeah.
once again, like with Clone Wars, I don't think we need to go through and give you a whole bunch of planets because you could go to Wikipedia.
You know what Tatooine is.
Or even just like whatever planet you need. Like if you're like, I want like a blue collar mining planet, do 5 minutes of Googling and you'll find a blue collar mining planet from Star Wars with all the details. It's one of the things I liked. We ventured I'm running a Star Wars Saga Edition game. And one of the nice thing is, there's been so much Star Wars content, I can find maps for everything.
Yes.
Like whatever I wanted, I could find maps either from Saga Edition or from one of the older Star Wars RPGs. You can Google image search. But so we are going to mention a couple of specific, but we are going to mention like our broad regions of this domain. This one isn't just like war and neutral. So first off, we got to start in the center of our hub, and that is Coruscant.
Yes.
So this is an island. It is the capital. It is an entire city covering the island. Like the entire Manhattan.
It's Manhattan.
It's Manhattan. Yeah. No, it's exactly that. That is 100%. That is perfect. Yes, it's Manhattan, but even bigger. So you have got this massive city. You also have this kind of underworld and slums, which can make a good base for rebel intelligence cells. We get a little bit of that in Andor. And of course, you have to have rebel agents here keeping an eye on things.
Of course.
And another reason we are setting this a little before the start of New Hope is because the idea that in that kind of Andor Rebels era, you still have the Senate. The Senate, who the Emperor is.
Yes.
But, and that opens up a lot of politics stories.
Yes.
Like, I really like this as the Empire is still kind of reaching, but they can't, like, just fly the Death Star and blow up Alderaan yet. Like, they have to be a lot subtler, and they have to, like, grant the illusion of democracy.
Yes.
And that gives space for your PCs if you really love your sort of Mon Mothma story in Andor or some of your Game of Thrones stuff. If you're like, I really want to do this kind of high-stakes politics, super social.
If you dream of pushing a bill through the Senate, it's going to increase Wookiee rights.
Yes, exactly. If you're like, I just want to do my characters set up this entrapment of this senator in this sketchy situation so we can blackmail him to do this to help Wookiee rights.
Yeah.
It is, I'm realizing, a way to do Star Wars Borka, basically. To do that.
It is a way to do Star Wars.
The super politics, yeah.
I love when you talk Borka to me.
And so we're having in our kind of canon, Coruscant is here in the hub, in the Empire, in the Darth Vader domain. But we understand there are some people that strongly associate it with the Clone Wars and the prequels. And you can have it be the kind of regional capital. And the nice thing is you do have an alternative capital, sort of. Which you could have this giant, Manhattan times 100. Manhattan, but it's the size of Oahu Island. And you could have it be Imperial Center. Because there is a thing where in some of the oldest material, they refer to the capital planet as Imperial Center. And then it came out, it was Coruscant. And so, of course, classic Star Wars Expanded Universe, it was like, well, no, that was like the official Imperial name. Everyone called it Coruscant.
Freedom Prize.
Exactly. We're just like renaming stuff, but for everybody else, the old name still sticks.
Gulf of America.
Yeah. And so...
Sorry.
Spicy. Political humor.
Guys, if you don't know our politics by now, I don't know what podcast you've been listening to.
So you could have it be that we have this giant city island called Imperial Center, and then Coruscant is like the mid-rim Republic capital. So you could still have some Clone Wars stories with Coruscant as a big part of it. And then, of course, we have the inner core, which are these kind of rich, privileged, decadent worlds. This is like your Chandrila, or to some extent your Alderaans. These are like the most wealthy and protected and safe worlds.
Those of you who aren't caught up on Andor, Chandrila would be Mon Mothma's planet, which they do all the big, like, glitzy kind of the stuff that they used to do on Naboo in the prequels. There.
And so many people there are happy to leave the Empire alone. You have others who, for purely philosophical, moral reasons, are opposing them. And this is, where you get your kind of Princess Leia's and your Mon Mothmas. These people that are coming from this position of great privilege, but using that privilege in whatever way they can, maybe bureaucratically trying to work in the Senate, or maybe more like covert, like the idea of a lot of funding. That a lot of these sort of conscience-bothered nobles from these inner islands are funding a lot of the rebellion. And then another thing, a great thing in the Rebels Andor era is we have the case that for a while, a bunch of the sort of resource planets were left alone if they, pay their taxes and don't make trouble. But that the Empire is, like, choking them slowly. They're, like, demanding more and more and more resource extraction, or they're using any excuse to come in and impose strict direct control. So, like, we saw this in Andor. We kind of had that. That's a big part of the first couple seasons of Rebels, that Lothal was suddenly getting this, like, tighter Imperial control and exploitation.
If you have read the Vader comics, there's, I don't remember the name of the planet, but it's the one that, like, evil Princess Leia comes from. It's kind of that storyline, too. And,
of course, the ultimate, I didn't even think of this. You were the one who remembered the ultimate example. The OG example of this is Cloud City.
Yes.
That you have worlds like that, islands like that the noose is tightening. And you have that people who are like, oh, let's try to accommodate them. Let's try to make the best we can. Let's try to not make any waves.
And maybe if they cut one shady deal with Vader, then they're going to be able to keep the Empire off their island.
And that's a really dramatically fruitful kind of scenario to put your PCs into.
Yes. Give them a Lando. And all of you who are going, well, wait a minute, like, what about your, like, scroungy, like, outer rim Tatooine? We'll get there. Not this episode. That's another episode.
Like, obviously, there is an underworld.
There is an underworld,
There is corruption. There's a lot of corruption.
There's just not a frontier.
Right, yes.
But yeah, there is an underworld because one of the things that you were pointing out when we were talking about the underworld that I really liked is you were talking about the huts.
Yeah.
And the idea that you do have, it's the whole promise of fascism, right? Is that the state will keep you safe.
Right, law and order.
From everyone but the state. You just have to follow the laws. But you get these, like, corrupt criminal elements flourishing if they are scratching the state's back.
Yes.
Which is basically what's going on with the Hutts here. They pay fantastic taxes.
Yes. They pay their taxes. They pay fat bribes to Imperial officials. They supply things the Empire needs. Even just this idea of, like, it needs so many resources, and they're willing to, like, cut deals with people to get those resources, because that's way more important than any kind of, like, law or principle or integrity is, filling their quotas.
Yeah. So, like, that's a really fun thing with the underworld, because it's easy to imagine the underworld as being a place where you would find rebels, right? Where you find people who don't like the Empire, or even, you might find somebody who will sell you out for 3 credits. But they probably hate the Empire at least, too, right? Because the Empire's trying to get rid of them. But then you got people who are, even though they are just the skeeviest criminals, are 100% on board with the jackboot crushing everybody else.
Yeah.
Because they're paying the jackboot to stay off of them.
Yeah, and that gives you so many great stuff for your rogue, for anyone that has the criminal background, and even just, it gives you really interesting role-playing of the sort of, like, hey, here are these shady people, and we know they don't like the space cops, but we also think that they will sell us out to second space cops. And, like, how do we, like, can we make a deal with them? Is there some kind of, like, guarantee that they're not going to sell us out to the space cops? And it's just, it's good stuff.
It's good stuff. It is good stuff.
And part of the special branch of those space cops is, of course, going to be the Inquisitors.
Yes.
Which are a phenomenal setting element. Speaking of Star Wars and RPG, if my memory serves me right, they were invented for that original 90s Star Wars RPG for this great purpose of it gives you your little mini Darth Vader.
Yes.
Like, it gives you a mini Darth Vader to be the Darth Vader that your Jedi, that your heroes can beat.
Because it even makes sense. Darth Vader can't go around and hunt down every Jedi in the galaxy by himself.
Right. There's a lot of them. And the galaxy's very big.
Yes.
It's bloody enormous.
Yes. So, like, if you haven't seen either Rebels or Kenobi, the Inquisitors are, basically they're your lower level, like, levels like 1 to 10 warlocks.
Junior trainee Sith.
Yes.
And so, once again, in ours, that they are after not only members of the Jedi Order, but any kind of magic user. So you can have that just classic, the magic user does something, maybe even your classic, like, the party helps someone, but they have to use magic to do it, and the word gets out, and the red
Cleric heals the dying person.
Lightsaber-bladed Inquisitors show up, and boom, you're in the story.
Yes.
And that might bring you in contact with one element of this potential Rebel Alliance, which is this group, the Hidden Path.
Which I hadn't heard of before.
Yes,
so.
they were mentioned in Kenobi. I had to look up the official name they're using now. It's basically the Jedi Underground Railroad.
Okay.
That idea of, like, it is this network smuggling people, Jedi, and people the Empire's after.
Okay.
And, like, trying to smuggle them to safe houses and to, like, looser, less controlled worlds and all of that. And it's the nice, like, lots of World War II, like, French resistance stuff could give you inspiration for this.
Nice.
And you have this nice, like, they have their specific thing and their specific way of fighting the Empire, and that's really important. But, like, can your PCs convince them to join this, like, wider Rebel Alliance? Because that does take away focus from their specific mission. But those resources they have could be useful for the wider rebellion. So, there's so many good stories in this setting.
So many good stories.
And finally, one very specific, very important thing we have to talk about that we are changing some. And speaking of the physical manifestation of the Empire, the kind of, like, incarnation of the Empire, what if Darth Vader was a space station? Let's talk about our version of the Death Star, because you came up with a lot of the basic concept.
Thank you. Yeah, so first off, I believe that we alluded to this in Army of the Fourth episode, that the Death Star is a flying citadel from Dragonlance.
Yes.
It's just a giant flying fortress.
Yes.
Because those are so cool.
Huge castle with the huge rock chunk below it.
Yes. And as I mentioned previously, like, for the Empire, I really prefer the idea that it's like these steampunk Nautilus ships rather than airships, because that makes the Death Star even scarier.
So terrifying.
Yeah, that nobody else has air power. We went with the Black Citadel for the name, because
such a good name.
Real hard to find anything punchier than the Death Star. Tom was allowed to brag on it because I came up with it.
It's such a good name.
Thank you.
Black Citadel. So it's under construction, because once again, that gives you so many ways to, like, get the PCs into the story. And that gives you so many, like, threads for them to follow.
Yes.
For, like, whatever story you're doing, it's easy to have that story lead them to a trail of clues to find out there's this super secret Imperial project. This ultimate super weapon, which will give them total domination of the hub.
Yes. And it can be, like, it's not flying yet. It's still being built on this island. They're able to hide it, so...
And this is what all those magic items are going for. That some of them are specifically being used as parts. Others are basically being, like, melted down and having, like, the mana extracted.
This was because when we were trying to figure out how to D&Dify things more, you had been talking about kyber crystals.
Yeah.
And this is, we had to meet the fourth. It's like, scene, Tom and Rachel eating bratwurst. And this is scene, Tom and Rachel at a diner.
What are kyber crystals?
What are kyber crystals?
What are they important for?
So Tom was explaining kyber crystals to me and how they're, like, these super magical force crystals that fuel lightsabers. And he said that for the Death Star, like, the kyber crystals were kind of being used to power the Death Star. And one of the... Because, again, like, we talked about big Isengard energy.
Yeah.
And that's a theme that I've always liked with Star Wars. It's a theme that's always resonated with me and creeped me out. Of this idea of kind of, like, deliberately stomping out magic for technology. Technology versus magic is a pretty common theme, but this full-on, like... fascist magic destroying empire is just So that was what led to this idea of, well, what if instead of taking the lightsabers and removing their kyber crystals, they're taking the +1 swords and melting them down. What if I'm doing that with, like, all the magic items, that they're kind of, like, melting them down for their component parts and extracting the magic from them. I'm doing big hand gestures for this. They're extracting the magic from them and putting them in the Black Citadel, and so all of this wonder and beauty and magic is being yanked from the world and put into this ugly war machine. And this is even worse than King Haggard, because at least he appreciates the beauty of the unicorn.
Got something to look at.
Yeah.
Speaking of, here is where the ultimate origin of what I think is a pretty good narrative choice of it's all spellcasters. So we're not just having it be a giant laser. Because we want to, this is a real way to differentiate this from canon Star Wars, is to kind of have a very different version of what the Death Star is. And the Black Citadel, it's not that it shoots a big laser that can blow up a whole island, though it can do that. This is taking from the show Victory Gundam, which I've not seen, but I've, like, read episode summaries of. And they had...
And also from the Lego movie.
Yes, also from the Lego movie. But that the Black Citadel, they take these spellcasters that they've captured, and they put them in, like, basically stasis pods. So you have just, like, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of these, like, magical coffin stasis pods through the Black Citadel. And then there's, like, the control throne. It's kind of like a spelljammer helm, that the spellcaster that sits in the control throne has access to all of the magical abilities and spell slots of all of the hive-minded.
Spells.
And memorize spells and spell points and key points and warlock invocations and every magical thing and divine smites and every magical ability for hundreds, if not thousands, of casters from a huge range of levels.
No, Aslan, it doesn't work for you. I don't know why, but it doesn't.
But it won't. Aslan breathes heavily.
I need a moment.
So, yes, that's the thing. That, like, yes, this actually could shoot a fireball that would blow up an entire, like, Cuba-sized island. Because it can be, I am casting fireball. I am casting at 9th level. I am using sorcery points to upcast it. To use meta magic feats to extend the spell and to twin the spell and do this. And I'm doing this. And I am using, like, this thing to get another action. And
Yeah, every broken combination you could possibly do.
And the more they use them, we have this idea that, like, they do have to be given a long rest after you use this to regenerate those abilities. You need to, like, wait and let it recharge. But you do have, like, you can sort of overclock it if you don't mind killing the spellcasters. And
that's how you kill your coffee locks.
yes, you do. And we're also imagining that, like, just using the control throne kills, like, 3 or 4. Just sort of, they're the spark plugs. They're like the, like, priming powder of the whole system. It drains their life force to activate the whole system. So this gives you this constant need. They will constantly, this endless war machine hunger for spellcasters.
Like, standard operation, they're going to use up 3 or 4. If they're really going bananas and if they want to blow up Alderaan, then they might go through a dozen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the nice thing with there was the idea that, like, the Death Star, when it's complete, when it's set, it's just kind of this, like, perfect closed sphere of, like, absolute power and dominion. And this is kind of like, no, this is this never-ending conveyor belt.
Yes.
Like, they can't just fly around and blow things up. They need that feeding trough of new spellcasters.
Yeah, and it's the people are literally resources feeding the war machine, feeding the literal war machine.
And this also opens up a lot of narrative possibilities for your PCs to enter.
Oh gosh, yes.
Which we'll talk more about in the adventure setting. So that's our sort of important locations, factions, but now we also want to talk about some critical NPCs, because this is that core canon at Star Wars area, and one of the things this is really interesting is the great NPCs, and one of the things you might want to bring to this, why you might want to do this as a setting, is you have so many great NPCs to draw from. So first, Rachel made me put him first.
I did.
And that's Grand Admiral Thrawn.
My boyfriend.
And
I want to talk about Thrawn. Listeners, I don't have a cold. This is just me talking about Thrawn. So yeah, Thrawn, he's hyper competent.
Yeah.
He's a great boss for your PCs because he's not as locked in canon as, like, your Vaders or like, we're going to talk in a minute about Tarkin. He's not even as locked in as your Tarkins. You can duo rebels. You can defeat him. Most of your players aren't going to be like, no, we don't beat Thrawn. Ezra beats Thrawn. They're going to be fine with beating Thrawn. In fact, they're going to be over the moon to beat Thrawn. And it's the whole, like, he is a super genius. If you put Thrawn in charge of the Empire, freedom is just dead.
Right, yes. It will be under the glorious geared flag of the Stormtrooper.
But he clashes with the Imperial hierarchy, who are doing, like, political things that don't involve him. They're favoring the Tarkin doctrine for political reasons, so they're not listening to his much better ideas. He's stuck with dumb subordinates. He's stuck with limited resources, and your PCs can play on that and get an edge.
I read a couple of the Thrawn books, like the post-Disney canon ones. And, like, I didn't love some of the later ones, but I really, really liked the first one, which was kind of the Thrawn story. And one of the things I loved is, like, he gets in the Imperial Navy, but he's like not doing great because he's so bad at politics. Because politics is so irrational.
Politics
is so irrational, and he's always coming in to like, staff meetings and presenting the logical course of action and not like stroking egos or wetting whistles, getting people's pet projects on stuff, hiring people's brothers-in-laws.
Why would you hire his brother-in-law? He's inefficient.
He's incompetent. And so the idea that like, yes, he's incredibly better at strategy than Tarkin, but Tarkin kind of rings around him in politics. So he's kind of always able to be like coming out on top of these conflicts about resources.
That's awesome.
Because he's so much better at politics. So speaking of Tarkin and his much, much better political ability, getting him a lot more resources for his pet project, we have Krennic. Like, Krennic is a really good NPC to bring in. If you want, you can replace him with Tarkin if you want the A-list, because that's kind of Krennic's thing, is he's B-list.
Yeah, if you want to do your Peter Cushing impression.
Yes, but if you, once again, you're like, I'd feel a little weird having my PCs, or they'd feel a little weird killing Grand Moff Tarkin, I don't think they're going to feel weird killing Krennic.
No.
Killing Orson Krennic. Because, once again, that's kind of the core, like, tragedy of Krennic, is that they're not going to feel weird about killing Orson Krennic.
It is the core tragedy of Krennic.
So he is the one managing the Black Citadel project, administering the largest construction project in maybe the whole history of the archipelago. And so it's easy to get your PCs like in conflict with him, and then that makes them a target. Like, even just they find out, they hear the person like, no, I have to stop the Black Citadel.
Yes!
And then they're like a target now. That puts a target on their head of like, they're not supposed to know that name. Even knowing that name makes them a danger.
Yes.
And I love easy, now you're in the story, whether you like it or not. And, Krennic's going to be, I think, a good one to roleplay and to set up as kind of a mini-boss for the PCs, that he is just the provincial. He has this huge chip on his shoulder.
Yes.
He is like absolutely, as soon as it's done, Tarkin starts icing him out of the project that he like coordinated for years and years.
His baby.
Actually, I believe it's my baby. I believe you'll find I was the one who...
Paternity test.
So that makes a great potential mini-boss and kind of, I think, a really good antagonist and a fun one to roleplay. And then speaking of people that show up in Rogue One that I think are going to be great to put against your PCs, we have
my gosh.
Saw Gerrera.
Oh my gosh. All three of these we considered having whole episodes about.
Yes.
You can look for the negative space. There's going to be an NPC who you might be thinking should be mentioned who's not mentioned. And that might give you a clue as to what our next episode is. But it's not Thrawn Krennic or Saw Gerrera, all of whom it might have been.
No, if we'd been like, we're doing a whole season of Star Wars, like each of these, Krennic and Thrawn and Saw Gerrera would have been Dark Horse.
Yes.
Because they're so good and rich and interesting characters. And Saw Gerrera, like, oh my gosh, what a wonderful element to introduce into Star Wars. He is the righteous extremist.
Yes.
The one who's absolutely right in his beliefs and in his enemies, but is willing to do unconscionable things. And says this is the only way to get them.
Yes.
That, like, your morality means the Empire's going to win. And that's a great dilemma to throw out your pieces.
So great. And even, like, we've talked a couple episodes with Frollo, with Bellos, with Celine.
Yes.
We've talked about the idea of having the quest giver who starts out seeming they give you reasonable things to begin with, and then you discover how not okay they are. And Saw Gerrera is like the king of those.
Yes, absolutely.
Because Celine's also pretty great. But, but he's right to be going after the Empire, but not like this.
Right, and he's so easy to, like, he's your quest giver. It's all good at first, but then it's like, okay, and now he's, like, executing surrendering Imperials. And you're like, what do we feel? I mean, they're bad. They're bad. And then he's, like, doing things that have collateral damage with some of the, like, civilians who, do work for the Imperials. And, like, kind of go watch Robin Hood and Prince Chon and, like, how much moral culpability does, like, the cleaning staff have of the Imperial base? Like, are they a fair target? And that's such a fun dilemma to throw at your PCs. The great thing is you don't have to answer that. Your PCs do.
PCs do, yeah.
So then we have kind of two final ones, and this is touching in more of that. We've had a lot of, like, the practical, the political, the military, and now we're bringing some of that sort of more Jedi mystical Force element, and so...
Bringing in the good guys.
So starting with Ahsoka. That we don't have Luke for the obvious reason that it makes the space for your PCs. Ahsoka can play a lot of the role that Luke would play in the story.
Yeah, because, like, if you like the idea of Vader being conflicted. As you know, he's a Dark Lord, so he's not going to get redeemed, but there is juiciness in him being conflicted. Right. He can be conflicted about Ahsoka. He's all in on the Empire, but he doesn't want his apprentice to get mulched for magical parts.
Yeah. And, like, you can have that, you know, gut punch, like, I am your father.
Yes.
Like, you can never get that with your PCs unless you have a really interesting potential backstory for one of your PCs they're leaving for you to define. But you can kind of get that shock and that horror and that gut punch with, like, Ahsoka realizing. Or even Ahsoka can be the one that can give you a lot of Anakin Skywalker's backstory.
I mean, I know in the Curse of Strahd game that's going on in our Discord, there's at least one player who doesn't know who her dad is.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go, Quartz. Darth Vader's your father.
Darth Vader. I am your father. Van Richten never told you what happened to your father. And in our status quo, it's going to be that Ahsoka, it's kind of in the Tales of the Jedi, the third one. It's post Order 66, and she's just kind of, like, in hiding, trying to, like, live her life. But of course, it's not that
Everything
simple.
catches up with her.
Everything catches up to her. She can never run from her the fact that she's a true hero and a Jedi. And maybe your PCs could be the one who, like, meet her and she helps them. Keep saying, like, once I get you off the island, then I'm out. I'm back to my farm.
Yeah.
And you're like, whatever, Ahsoka.
Whatever.
Sure, Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And they bring her back to the fight. Like, they get her to join up with some rebel group and start fighting the good fight again.
Yes.
And you even have that wonderful, like, she has the legitimate of, like, I fought a war, we lost. Like, I deserve to just be able to be a farmer and have my little apple orchard for the rest of my life. And you're like, yeah, I can't argue with that, but here we are.
Perfectly legitimate arc for a disillusioned hero to have!
Finally, similar to Ahsoka, we could also have that with Obi-Wan. That we're imagining Obi-Wan as he is at kind of the start of the Obi-Wan show, which was kind of underrated. Like,
yes, definitely.
I think it's flawed, but there's a lot of good there.
Yes.
And if you're going to be a Star Wars fan, you have to learn to take the flawed stuff.
There's a lot of flawed stuff.
It's all flawed.
It's all flawed. It's all, except for Empire.
Yes.
It's all flawed.
Everything else is flawed. But anyway, so that he's like the hobo on Tatooine, and he's not like guarding Luke or anything. He's just kind of like run away, and he's just kind of living in like misery and filth and trying to hide from the Empire. And once again, you can be the ones who bring him back to the fight. And then that's this great wild card of like, okay, he's probably going to die, but we don't know when.
Yes.
And maybe he could be like a mentor to your PCs. Maybe he could be the one that gives them the Vader backstory, that gives that emotional Vader confrontation, if you really want that emotional Vader confrontation. Or he could be, you know, he still has his old contacts with like, you know, Alderaan and some of and maybe even Ahsoka and some of the others. So he can kind of bring the PCs into that, like, bigger rebellion story.
Yes.
So, we've given you our sort of vision board of this Star Wars inspired, we hope, in a good way, Dungeons & Dragons setting. And we've talked a bit about how some of the adventures you might find in this setting. Now, let's talk more about what your PCs might do in this Star Wars inspired D&D setting. Rachel, what do you do with it?
Dread possibilities. Our target in the Imperium was more difficult to acquire than a simple map. The mistways leading back to Afra's Byre were controlled with a particularly tight hand, and we needed certain signatures and passwords to have any hope of bypassing Imperial patrols. Obtaining these involved more delicate personal interaction than the simple robbery of the Geonosian Vault, which is why Afra was so adamant that I handle the brunt of it so that she could avoid the slightest chance of encountering anyone who knew her history with Vader. It turned out to be a fairly easy task to accomplish with creative use of Mask of Many Faces and Minor Illusion, which, since I was acting alone, I was able to use freely. Given the Imperium's persecution of magic users, I was more than a little worried that they would detect my subterfuge and arrest me, but they had no way of doing so. I had assumed that, given their regular impoundment of magic items, any Imperial stronghold would be teeming with tools of divination and detection. I would soon learn the actual fate of those magic items, however, and Palpatine's voracious appetite for them left no room for their actual use. As I was obtaining the last of the necessary signatures, I overheard a pair of Imperials discussing prison transports. The majority of the prisoners were headed to the island chain of Narkina, but one of the officers mentioned a wizard who was bound for Geonosis. To say this unsettled me would be an understatement. Geonosis was not supposed to be part of the Imperium, and it made no sense for prisoners to be transported to the Midrim. When I returned to the Archangel, I asked Afra if she could take me to Geonosis to investigate the matter further. She pretended not to know what I was talking about, saying that we had already been to Geonosis and that I knew quite well that it was in the Midrim. I reminded her that we had agreed that, in exchange for my not claiming a share of this enterprise, she would make the occasional detour to help me with my own project. She retorted that if I knew what Geonosis was like in the Imperium, I would not see it as a mere detour. I politely informed her that in that case I wished to claim my percentage. Aspersions were cast upon one another's parentage, and speculations were made about the other's amorous preferences, and, in the end, she agreed to take me within 2 miles of the Geonosian coast. I suspect that my patron placed Arcane Eye within my ring of spell storing, specifically so I could explore such heavily guarded areas as this one. I hope that I am not expected to express gratitude for receiving the tools that are necessary for doing my job. I would not have been able to complete the report otherwise, and I am not writing it for my own benefit. When Afra grudgingly brought me as close to Geonosis as she dared, I cast Arcane Eye, explaining, truthfully, that I was not a wizard but that my patron was, and that he had given me a handful of magic items to assist me in my task. I quickly saw why she had wanted to keep her distance, for we had to dodge several patrols and traps even to come as close to the island as we did, and my Arcane Eye could see both becoming more numerous as it drew nearer to the coast. I confess that I had initially begrudged the fact that I would spend more than half the spell's duration simply sending the eye to the island, but Afra was genuinely bringing me as close as was advisable, perhaps closer. The moment I saw Geonosis, there was no doubt. It was the same place from which we had stolen the map of Dathomir, despite being in a separate domain. The foundries still belched smoke, but I could make out rings, wands, and potions being carried into one of them. Whatever they were making in those foundries, or in that particular one at least, they were using the magic items as raw materials. Towering over the foundries was something that had certainly not been on Geonosis a month ago. A fortress of black metal and stone, covered in construction scaffolding. There were armed guards overseeing the laborers, giving little doubt as to the nature of their labor, but I doubted these were the imprisoned casters. Building a fortress by hand hardly seemed like work that required magic. Even with only the Arcane Eye, I shuddered to look upon the Black Citadel. Something about it was wrong. Of course, it's impossible to hear anything through an Arcane Eye, but I was certain that I could hear the very stones of the Citadel crying out in pain. You can dismiss this as sentiment and emotion if you like. It would be imprudent to dismiss this as mere sentiment. I know how it sounds, but I know what I felt. Even though my body was 2 miles away, even though I was mercifully unable to use Eldritch Sight through the eye, I could feel the magic radiating from it, and the magic was wrong. It was... I can think of no other way to describe it. The magic itself was screaming. It was being tortured, and it was screaming. I did not want to push closer, but I did so, following the screams that were almost perceptible. I was beginning to make out human voices in the cacophony now, and it was clear that no one actually on the island could hear them. The laborers' eyes had the hollow look of slaves who have lost all hope of escape, but they were sane, and I was certain that more than a few hours of this would drive anyone who heard it mad. I could not shake the image of those captured spellcasters entombed alive within the walls of the Citadel, their spirits forever imprisoned there. The magic items, the people, feeling that hideous wrongness that radiated from this monstrosity, I knew that it was they, not metal and stone, that were its true substance. Mercifully, it was impossible to take the eye into the Citadel itself. Some of the magic they poured into it must have made it proof against scrying. I tried to examine the site further, but I could only maintain concentration for so long in the face of that agonized, inaudible howling. The arcane eye dissipated, and I doubled over, vomiting onto the floor of the Archangel.
I want adventure in the great wide somewhere.
I want it more than I can tell.
So as we mentioned in the Closing the Border section, this is a pretty awful place.
Yeah.
Even among our Ravenloft, even among our Star Wars Ravenloft, one that is the most tyrannical jackboot dictatorship. So why might your PCs have chosen to come to this particular tyrannical jackbooted dictatorship? And as always, we have our kind of, was it John Mangrum?
John Mangrum, yeah.
Right, the heartstrings and purse strings.
Yes.
We have things to appeal to the more altruistic players. We have things to appeal to the more money-truistic players. Profit-truistic players. Yeah. And so for the purse strings, this is a lot of market opportunities for heavily armed transients.
Oh, yeah.
This is a setting that has this tyranny and this control and these rules. There's a lot of space for smugglers.
When everything's illegal, you can smuggle so much stuff.
Yes. There's a great position for mercenaries, for people that need that, like want that extra protection. Have a really great example, an area where you might have some like shadier, more morally ambiguous PCs and like kind of get them into a rebellion story, which is in Andor Season 1, the Cassian starts out in this job with the rebels as a mercenary. Like he's doing it for money, but then he kind of gets pulled into this wider rebellion. And there's plenty of D&D groups that I think might need that initial, we're doing this for money, but then they can get pulled into that more idealistic rebellion.
Yeah.
And speaking of idealistic rebellions, heartstrings, easiest thing in the world. These are people in a tyrannical dictatorship. They are fighting for freedom. They are trying to escape that tyrannical dictatorship. They are very overmatched. Easiest thing in the world if you have idealistic moral PCs to pull them into the story and into the setting. You can do the classic, how many Star Wars stories launched with the they see innocent shopkeeper people getting bullied by Imperials, and they kind of stand up and don't. If your PC is the kind of people who wouldn't stand for that, then that's all you need right there.
Yeah.
And it could even be a more specific version of that would be helping a Jedi.
Yeah.
Like a Jedi's being hunted, attacked. They're an innocent person. Maybe the PCs know they're a good person who helped people. The PCs help that Jedi. Boom, you're in the story now.
And when we first came up with our outline, that was kind of like all we had. And I was like, well, honey, that's like if you're already there, like what happens if you're trying to bring the PCs into the Empire? And you gave me this look like, I don't understand the question. Why wouldn't you already be in Star Wars?
Why wouldn't you already be in Star Wars? It's the Star Warsiest.
But the great thing is, we've got this idea of Palpatine gathering magic items for even worse reasons than Jafar. At least Jafar, there's still the magic and wonder to them.
Wants to use them for what they are.
Then, they might be getting some MacGuffin magic item that your PCs want, and they're going to melt it into slag.
Yeah, they're going to make it into a door frame for the Death Star, basically.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Or like a firing pin. Like one, cylinder of this great engine, this great arcane engine is going to be like the specific magic MacGuffin you need.
We're fixing Carnival. This is how we finally get rid of Nepenthe.
Yeah.
Nepenthe is a door hinge on the Death Star. I'm sorry, guys. I hate 5e Carnival. Okay. But yeah, so it could be like the magical MacGuffin that you need, or just you hear about a cool magic item. Have this happen. You could have it be that you have a religious PC who they have like a vision, or even just follow a trail of breadcrumbs that points them to a lost Jedi temple, and they have to get there and find this thing before the Empire finds it. And then a thing that. The minute I thought of this, I was just so happy.
Yeah, that's such a good fan service.
Thank you. If you want just total Disney fan service, so there was the Ahsoka being a bounty hunter, right? Earlier. And that might have been taking her all over Ravenloft.
Right.
So what if she's in the Van Richten network? Right. What if Ahsoka and Van Richten are buddies? And you're doing your stuff with Van Richten, and you run into his buddy Ahsoka Tano. And then she hears about her friends who are in trouble, and she has to go and bail them out. And can you help her?
So good. I mean, it could even be that, if you wanted to keep her specifically in Star Wars, it could even be that, she was doing a bounty hunter and maybe was doing some kind of monster or evil magic user, and Van Richten was visiting here at the time. And so she's the Star Wars contact. The Stellar Archipelago contacts that he has for his network. And then speaking of that, I remember we had this wonderful idea. We mentioned that Palpatine is after these magic items to make into our version of the Death Star, but he's also after magic users. And part of what we built in our Death Star is this inexhaustible hunger. It is this machine that needs a conveyor belt of coal, and the coal is people, is magic users. So maybe the Inquisitors, the agents of the Empire, are even traveling to other domains now and kidnapping magic users. They're like, we're actually kind of like running low on homegrown magic users. And some of these domains, we could go and we can raid them. So you could even have the like mists open and these like crazy steampunk ships come out and start rounding people up.
They're like, Haslan, question mark? Haslan, exclamation point.
So that could even be a nice, once again, it's kind of taking elements of our whole meta plot story with Thanos, this idea of like, if you're just doing something in Haslan or Darkon or something, then your PCs have come into conflict with the Domain Lord. Maybe you could have a like, all right, if you go deal with this, if you go like stop whatever Imperial group is doing this, then we'll let bygones be bygones.
Yeah, we're square on that thing you did. You know the thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, lots of potential possibilities to bring your PCs into this setting and then to get them entangled into this kind of wider story once they are there. Now let's talk about what kind of stories might then unfold from that entanglement. And the answer is infinity. Like this setup, this sort of political military setup is a story engine that has produced literally decades and decades and decades and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different Star Wars stories. Like this is the most jam-packed period of the Star Wars. We mentioned that the more mercenary ones could still end up kind of on the side of the rebellion. We are sort of assuming your PCs are going to find themselves against the Empire in some way. Maybe purely altruistic, or maybe, more like Han Solo types. But either way, like, none of these stories we are offering are going to be like Imperial PCs.
If you do want to know what that would look like, I know I keep talking about them, but the Darth Vader comics, like, this gang of miscreants that D is traveling around with is basically a group of Imperial PCs. So,
yes, it's so good.
It's great. So, cannot recommend them highly enough.
And if you're doing your full-on, just kind of Han Solo, before the movies, smugglers, scum and villainy domain, like, we'll have more stuff to talk about that next month. But this setting specifically, we are imagining being defined by this conflict against the Empire. And we are imagining your PCs, the default setting is that they are against the Empire.
Yeah.
And so that then leads to an obvious potential story, that original story in this setting and in this time period, destroying the Death Star.
Yeah.
So we have this Black Citadel, we have this super powerful, magical flying Citadel, and the great thing is then that can be like a dungeon. You just have to get your PCs on it, and then they can dungeon crawl their way to like the core and like blow up the core.
How great is that going to be that you can like kind of take one of your evil castle maps and make it Star Wars?
Exactly. It could be destroying it. It could be rescuing people from it. It could be, once again, if you're after specific magic users that could be kidnapped, that could be this kind of lesser dungeon adventure. I think, like, the iconic Star Wars plot is blowing up the Death Star, so that'd be a good one-shot.
Yes.
Kind of, how great would that be? You do your Star Wars one-shot and you blow up this fantasy Death Star.
Heck yes, I'm here for it.
And the great thing is, the Black Citadel is not any inherent part of Vader's torment or the setting status quo, so go ahead and blow the heck out of it.
Vader's still miserable in Empire.
Yeah, you can make this major, huge shift in the status quo, improvement in the status quo, by blowing up their, like, horrible magic super weapon.
Yeah.
So that's, like, the sort of the one-shot, that's, like, the sort of core, iconic plot. As I said, for other plots, if you're like, I want to run, like, I kind of want to do my equivalent of Star Wars Rebels and run a whole show here, then just look, Star Wars Rebels will give you 1 million plots. There's so many.
Star Wars Rebels will give you 1 million plots. Andor will give you 1 million plots. You've got so many novels that you can call on.
So many comics, so many video games.
Yeah.
Like, just whatever you want to draw from, you can take those plots.
Star Wars is a well that has no bottom.
No bottom. A couple of stock plots we kind of already mentioned. There is a lot of Andor, or even the Death Star is kind of a version of this, of sabotaging or stopping or heisting some kind of Imperial superweapon or getting some kind of important intelligence. You could have saving fugitive Jedi or saving fugitive magic users, we have this faction, the Hidden Path, that is sort of the Underground Railroad for Jedi. You could have these people that are, this secret organization with all the, like, secret signs and counter signs and safe houses and smuggling magic users away from the Imperium. And so that could be a thing, helping that group. You could have rescuing just people that have been captured from Imperial prison, from Imperial transport. Just so many Star Wars stories are about that. Yeah. You could also have just, you're doing a kind of rebel group. They need supplies. They need resources. You can do this as a raid if you want to run like a cool battle, or taking from Andor can be more of a heist.
Yeah.
You could do a version of the Aldhani heist where there is this Imperial depot with a ton of supplies you need, and you are planning out this meticulous heist to get those supplies.
Get so much cash.
You can have these wide-ranging, galaxy-spanning adventures where you're just like going planet to planet to planet to planet. Or, we mentioned Rebels. I think this would, if you, for a long-term campaign, this could be a very good system. You have a specific planet or sector or like cluster of planets, and that's like your setting. And like you are kind of the rebellion in that sector. And you kind of weaken and try to drive out the Empire from that planet or that sector.
And talking about sectors, actually, real quick, listeners, because I'm in the process of writing the D's Journal for Count Dooku right now. And it's important to note, if when you're looking at like what planets and what sectors and what this and what that you want to put where, this is not actually Star Wars. The geography does not have to match the geography of Star Wars. Because I had the whole, like, Dee went to Geonosis last episode, but Geonosis isn't in the Midrim, it's in the Outer Rim. You know what? This isn't Star Wars, it's the Stellar Archipelago. It's wherever we say it is.
There's an island of Thrykean called Geonosis here in the hub.
Yes. So, like, wherever you want to put anything, anywhere, to heck with Star Wars geography, and you don't even have to worry that you're messing with canon, because you know what? In canon, Darth Vader isn't undead.
Yes,
so.
And they're on spaceships.
And more importantly, they're on spaceships.
They're not taking airships from island to island. Rebels is a great model here. I know a lot of Star Wars RPGs have done this, and even some of the comics and books have done this. Like, I know the Rogue Squad, I think, is a good example books of, like, they have their kind of sector and their kind of big Imperial bad guys. With Rebels, you have the Imperial Inquisitor, then you have Thrawn kind of the first half, and then the first season, and then you really have Thrawn in like the latter half of the show. And it could have your guy. And it could be a kind of Imperial commanding officer type. It could be an Inquisitor, which gives you a nice little mini Darth Vader for your PCs to clash with.
All our grognards, if there's some Legends character you really wish to bring back, if you want Prince Zizor to be your guy, congratulations, Prince Zizor is your guy.
And you can bring in Rebel Season 2 as a great model. You can bring in Vader for like special cameos.
Yes.
And to bring especially if they succeed, this could be a nice like escalating the stakes. But you know what? Darth Vader is a very busy guy.
He is a very busy guy.
The Empire is very big. And even here, the hub, we are talking hundreds of islands. And he is constantly kind of running around, putting out or starting fires. So he'll like come
Vader
in,
did start the fire. Fight
your PCs a couple of times, and then like, he'll have a new thing he has to do.
Yeah.
Once he's like done some kind of bringing the hammer down. And in that case, you even have a whole... There's always that problem with D&D of like the assumption logic in a lot of combats is we fight to the enemies at 0 hit points. Like every combat sort of treated like it's a battle in a war game of like our job is to fight and to fight until we defeat them or we are killed. And there isn't nearly a lot of the like running away or trying to escape.
Yes.
But I feel like you bring in Darth flippin' Vader. They'll be like, we're just trying to get out of here. We're not going to beat this guy.
And then if they continue to be a thorn in his side, he's not going to be going after them personally because he's a very busy guy, but he might delegate somebody bigger to go after them. He might send a Thrawn rather than, whatever bumbling dude has been going after them from the beginning.
So for form's sake, for this what's kind of story section, we also say what aspect of Star Wars are we focused on. This is that sort of stories of rebellion and insurgency.
This is like Star Wars qua Star Wars.
Star Wars qua Star Wars, yeah. This is a kind of space Viet Cong fighting the space Nazis in Space World War II. So that is a lot of possibilities for our baseline canon setting. of this hub, of this empire. And that empire, that beloved original trilogy setting, that is that heart of Star Wars, that is cherished by people of all range of ages. And let's talk about potentially running this game for some younger players who love Star Wars, or some older players who love Star Wars. Because this is legitimately...
Oh, yes.
You have a group of 10-year-olds, they want to do Star Wars. A group of 40-year-olds, they want to do Star Wars. And not only Star Wars generally, they want to do Star Wars with Darth Vader and Stormtroopers and X-Wings.
You and our 7-year-old both have Star Wars pajamas.
We do indeed. They make them in all sizes. So let's start with the Star Wars onesie, the child-sized Star Wars onesie types. I keep saying the word Star Wars Rebels. It's that.
It is.
What's written in my notes here, Tom, aging down, period, Rebels, exclamation point.
Yes.
And like I wrote a little more, but that
so
could have
good,
been
guys.
it. Like that is perfectly taking this original trilogy, pre-New Hope kind of Empire R status quo and toning it down for kids, but hitting all those high points.
Like, truly, dear listeners, if you were like me and you're like, there is too much ding-dang Star Wars, I love Star Wars, but I am so overwhelmed looking at how much Star Wars there is. If you can only watch one Star Wars animated show, we're only 4 episodes in, but it should probably be more. But if you watch 2...
Yeah, if you watch 2.
As of this recording, there are only 4 episodes of Maul. But if you watch 2... Holy Potatoes Rebels is so good, and they do a good job of explaining the stuff that happens in Clone Wars. So, like, as long as you have a basic knowledge of, like, who Ahsoka is and who Bo-Katan is and this and that, then you'll be okay. If you've seen The Mandalorian, you'll understand what's going on in Rebels. And it's amazing, and I'm not just saying that because Thrawn is in it. It is so good.
Like, spicy hot takes.
Ooh.
Okay, I think Andor is the best show in Star Wars. Rebels is the best Star Wars show.
100%.
And hit us up on the Discord if you want me to expand on that thing.
But again, we are recording this before Maul finishes. We might change our minds. But
Season 1, Rebels, like a little shaky finding its feet. But I think by halfway through Season 1, definitely by Season 2, it is one of the best pieces of Star Wars media there is.
Yeah.
So this is our PSA. If you're a Star Wars fan, but you're not an animation fan, and for whatever you haven't watched Rebels, really give it a try.
And for me, and this is, not a spicy hot take, this is just a personal taste thing. The thing that I love, I was talking to Tom about this earlier, I like Andor fine. I admire the craftsmanship of Andor, but the thing I love most about Star Wars is that it's space fantasy, and there's no space fantasy in Andor. And that's just, I love Rebels so much. It gives me weird aliens and lightsabers and Jedi temples and Sith holocrons. It's everything I'm looking for.
It's so good. It's so good. So speaking of shows we've been talking about, Rebels are a perfect model in terms of tone, in terms of violence, in terms of like taking some of those Star Wars themes, even of things like tyranny and fascism, in a kind of kid-friendly way, but still very true to the setting and to the ideas. But is there some Star Wars show we could think of that would be a better model of a rebellion-era adult-focused game?
Yeah.
Possibly rhymes with Fandor.
Possibly rhymes with Fandor. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to have to do a skip ahead warning for this, because it basically just boils down to watch Andor.
Watch Andor, yeah.
And do Andor, and have Saw Gerrera.
Yeah.
And, the more brutal realities of insurgency, the realities of tyranny, like a real horrible torture like we got with Bix, like real, your Luthen types who are treating you like pawns on a chessboard and sacrificing people for the greater good of the rebellion, but is that a rebellion worth fighting for, though? So just basically do Andor. The one thing kind of unique to our setting version for aging up and aging down, and actually this is a slider, so it can go for aging up or aging down, is with those captured magic users. For aging down, it's the think tank from the Lego movie.
Yes.
Like, they're, they might be unconscious and everything, but they're totally fine. You can get them out, you can thaw them, they're good. For aging up, they are just lobotomized in pods, and all you can do is put them out of their misery. And when we first were coming up with this idea, the first thing, honestly, that came to mind for me is that it's not just the magic items that are being melted down into slag. Like, the oil of the Black Citadel is made from melted magic users.
Or you could have a crazy, they open the thing and it's just vats of heads. Of animated, vats of heads with wires in them.
Yeah. So
lots of options.
That's kind of for our version, the big slider. And then This was originally blank, but just today, actually, because again, I was working on the D's journal today. We talk about other AUs after we talk about aging down and aging up, if we have any, and we didn't think we were going to have any.
I'm staring at a blank AU section of the script as we speak.
Yes.
This is live, baby.
But I talked to you about it,
Yes,
so you know what I mean. Which we teased this a little bit in our May the 4th episode and our Clone Wars episode. And that's the idea that it's not just space that's weird with the Stellar Archipelago domains, it's also time. And this idea that what if instead of being cut off from the mid-rim, what if instead of it being that the hub and the mid-rim are different regions of this one archipelago that got cut off from each other, what if they got copy-pasted? What if they have the exact same islands and you go there and you do some adventure thing on Geonosis and then you go to where the Black Citadel is being built and you're like, wait, this is also Geonosis.
Yeah.
Or what if you have a thing where you meet young Anakin or young Ahsoka in the Clone Wars and then you go over to the Imperium and she's like, wait, I just talked to her a week ago and she was 20 years younger. So that could lead to, and we're going to get into this more as this series progresses, but that's where we can get into kind of some of the really unnerving cosmic horror elements of drifting around being unstuck in time. So
that little interesting, very high concept teaser that we ourselves are still kind of nailing down all the details of, but we will be explicating as we continue our series. So little hook for our future episodes. Don't just drop off after Vader's done.
Yes, I know. It's tempting.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to want to listen to the next one too. But.
And so we have given you that. We have given you running it for kids in Star Wars onesies. We have given you stuff for running it for grown adult men in Star Wars pajama pants. Which I might be in a little bit, about an hour.
The Millennium Falcon
might be me in an hour. And now let's give you our party thoughts on a Empire original trilogy, roughly, era Star Wars Ravenloft domain, in a section we like to call
Parting Thoughts.
So the first thing we like to talk about in our Parting Thoughts section is the genres of horror. This is from Vin Rickens' Guide to Ravenloft, and possibly from the upcoming Ravenloft book, which is, I think, out by now.
I think it's coming out in 3 days.
Okay, cool. So next episode, we'll have an update.
Yeah, maybe. But no, but we're going to record it before it comes out.
But we'll see if they continue to do this with the domains in that new book, and that is, they go through these different genres of horror, and they talk about that, aesthetic signifiers and monsters and what kind of fear they evoke. It's a super useful section for, I think, anyone running any kind of horror game to kind of zoom in on that genre like that. And it's also an area where we circle one of the most challenging parts of this setting, which is trying to not only make it a Dungeons & Dragons setting, which I'm going to admit I'm kind of just doing a Dungeons & Dragons setting. Fortunately, I have Rachel here to keep being like, okay, but where's the horror?
Yes.
But this is not Dungeons & Dragons, this is Ravenloft. So in what way is this a Ravenloft setting? And I'm curious what you have for our Empire kind of and/or Rebels original trilogy era domain. What genres of horror are you thinking?
Dark fantasy.
Absolutely, yes.
He's an evil wizard with evil wizard powers. They're doing all this evil magic stuff with the Death Star and the, capturing magic users. Just dark fantasy with dark fantasy sauce. If you're going more for an Andor vibe, I guess psychological,
right,
I guess that would be the best genre for it.
That's right. My mind kept going psychological, I guess. But
yeah. Although,
ooh,
Vader is hella gothic.
He is hella gothic, yeah.
And you don't get much more gothic than Vader. And if you did the Black Citadel, it's like a crazy gothic castle.
No, yeah. It works perfect. And even is this sort of extension of, you have that we talked about, Darth Vader is the incarnation of the Empire, but also kind of so is the Death Star. And the Death Star's kind of what if Darth Vader were a building.
Yeah.
And Darth Vader's kind of what if the Death Star were a guy.
It's I feel like the correct answer is dark fantasy and psychological horror. But again, I'm sorry, listeners, again, this is just, I recognize it's not you and/or it's me. I understand that. But maybe I'm just shying away from an and/or version of this that I hear psychological and I'm like, oh, not that though.
Also, we just did psychological.
We did just do psychological.
Separatists with the Clone Wars, with the prequel era. So I am totally cool trying to not do psychological here.
Cool.
Because we just did that.
All right, sounds
So
good.
I am totally fine doing dark fantasy and gothic.
Excellent.
Especially, like, you know, it's got some of those traditional themes and ideas of the gothic, but not the, like, signifiers. But, like, no, this Dungeons & Dragons fantasy setting
gives
it can be a castle. It can be a big spooky castle, possibly on a hill with a lightning crash.
And, like, you don't get much more of a gothic tempter figure than Palpatine.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's the past reaching into the present, you know, like everything. Well, it's going to be less of an issue because we don't have a Luke, but if you do an Ahsoka story.
Yeah, then you've got Vader even being the
story,
corruptor, yeah.
Then you can have that, like, that past reaching into the present and plenty of the external and the internal.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally fine with dark fantasy and gothic.
Excellent.
And then speaking of taking this and making it the much more gothic-friendly spooky castle, what are some older spooky castle adjacent stuff in the 2nd edition or 3rd edition Ravenloft that we could bring into this?
I mentioned them last month.
Yeah,
I mentioned them again. If you want the horror of the fantasy jackboot, Falcovnia is your domain. There were a lot of issues with 2nd and 3rd edition Falcovnia. Again, it was too real. I didn't care for that. And also, they were kind of like trying to make it all horrible dictatorships simultaneously. And it's like, no, you can't have it be the Empire if they're also kind of forcing everyone into illiterate poverty, because in order to have the Empire, you need a thriving complicit middle class. So it doesn't completely
Cyril's
work.
mom.
You need Cyril's mom. Yeah, you need Cyril. You need that.
Cyril. Yeah,
like,
you need Cyril. You need
like
address,
if you have like this world where there's infant mortality off the charts, and like everyone is so crushed into the dirt that they don't have
eat rotten potatoes.
Yeah, you don't get Dedras and Cyrils from that. And how is Falcovnia asking you for all your papers all the time if people are illiterate?
Or even like if you want to do your classic kind of modern fascist society, you need to have enough of an educated class that you can have like secret police and informants.
Yes.
Right, like even that. How can you ask for papers if everyone's illiterate?
Exactly. So there are definite issues with the 2nd edition and 3rd edition version of Falcovnia. I had to seriously rework it when I ran it.
Honestly, like thinking about, you know, Star Wars is such a like big dumb fantasy fascist Nazi tyranny. It might have even been like Falcovnia might have been more enjoyable if it were like it's just the Empire from Star Wars.
That might have been, yeah.
Like that this might be a way to actually be like, I want to hit that man's inhumanity to man, but in a way that's not going to make me miserable.
Yes.
So it's just like, well, it's the Empire from Star Wars.
Yeah. So, like, with Falcovnia, you had all of your fascism greatest hits. You had, you had labor camps. You had, we mentioned in the Dooku episode, you had horrible environmental exploitation, which was being conducted by people who were in the labor camps, including elves. Elves were being forced to do horrible environmental exploitation. It was awful. And, like you had, like, the different, like, departments within the fascist government who were doing this and that and all trying to curry Vlad Drakov's favor and, like, working against one another and stabbing one another in the back, but trying not to do it too obviously because they don't want to be hobbling the war effort. So, like, a lot of good stuff that you could steal if you want a fantasy version of Star Wars. And a plot hook that I brought in for Falcovnia that I'm going to try very hard to describe here in the PG part of our podcast.
Yes.
Wow.
Sadly, not in the aging up section.
Yeah,
Still.
because...
That's a clue right there.
It fits the themes of the Empire so well. And it was actually like, I remember I ran this storyline for Tom, and he was kind of like, why is this in Falcovnia? And I was like, no, here's thematically why it's great. He's like, oh, it is great.
Yeah,
and it's
no,
like
that makes
thematically
sense,
for the Empire too. So there's this subtype, well, they're not even really a subtype of vampire because they're not undead. They're like living creatures who feed on blood that are called vampires with a Y.
Oh, good lord.
It's very silly.
It's the nutties.
It's very silly. So I think the idea was that they wanted to be like, you see them feeding on blood and you're like, Cleric goes in, guns blazing, and it's like, plot twist, they're not undead.
They're just leech people.
They're just leech people. But like...
Could have been called leech people.
But so you had this, like, group of these vampires in Falcovnia, led by this guy named Vladimir Ludzig, because we gotta have two people named Vlad in Falcovnia. Like, That's why
Not confusing at all.
You guys never learned his first name.
Yeah, right.
And they were like disappearing people and taking them to these underground feeding houses where they're basically just building farms for people. And also they have dominate power, so they've got other stuff going on with their prisoners because you can do that kind of thing. And they throw wild parties and invite the some of the upper echelons, the decadent elite, so that way the decadent elite are like, okay, we're going to look the other way for this.
Yeah.
And it's so great. Like, it doesn't feel like Falkovnia at first, because, like, what does it have to do with man's inhumanity demand? That's vampires' inhumanity demand. But, like, number one, you phrased it perfectly.
Ooh,
when I was explaining this to you, and you came up with a perfect way to explain it. It's industrialized atrocity. Mm-hmm. Like, this is, for all my cooler generational bingo, my Buffy people, there was that alternate reality where, like, the master is running the blood factory.
Like, made a factory,
like,
yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, the thrill of the hunt is titillating, but this is the future. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing of the, like, there's something about at least getting hunted that's better than this.
One of those things I think about sometimes, because I'm weird like that, is, like, kind of what separates fascism specifically from just, like, tyranny. Because, there have been tyrants and despots through all human history, but fascism feels like this very specifically 20th century phenomenon.
Right.
And one thing is it's very industrial.
Yeah.
Like, it's that industrial scale, and it's using all the sort of tools of industrialization and modernization and technology and all of that for the means of tyranny and despotism. And, like, this is that. This is industrialized oppression.
Yes. And also, it's that thing we were talking about with the criminal gangs into the huts.
See, it comes back to Star Wars. Long wind up to Star Wars. Jabba, Jabba.
That, like, the promise of fascism is that if you follow the rules, you'll be safe. But no, if there are the right people lining the pockets of the people in charge, their rights are, some animals are more equal than others.
Right, exactly.
And the ones who pay the money, they're more equal than you. Even if they're going to do horrible things to you, even if they're going to kidnap your law-abiding self and put you in a people farm. So, if you wanted, like, a kind of a fantasy thing that encapsulates a bunch of those themes, look at Ludwig's feeding houses, session zero it, and then have fun.
And so this is the thing that, like, one thing I love with Star Wars, maybe even originally just to make the Empire the most villainous villain there ever was, is how corrupt they are.
Yes.
Is just every level of the Empire is rife with corruption.
Yes. And
it's like, yes, you could say maybe that's just to show how bad they are, but I think that's honestly saying something very real about fascism and tyranny.
100%.
And it's all an excuse for power. It's all an excuse for money and privilege and control.
Yeah.
And that, no, it doesn't matter in the Empire if you are a law-abiding citizen. If you keep your head down and follow all the rules, because the authorities are corrupt and will absolutely sell your butt to the Hutts.
Yes.
For a lot of credits or spice or whatever.
Yeah, like in the Dr. Aphra comics. No, I'm doing a different comic thing. There was one of the Imperials was talking to Aphra, and she was like, there are three kinds of people who support the Empire and are involved in the Empire. And one of them were the brats, like Aphra. And, like, they want there to be an empire because they like the idea of there being order, but they want order to rebel against. And this person, her thing was, because you are afraid of who you are and or who your neighbors are, and you want that law in order to prevent people from being their worst selves. And then there are people who just want the power, and this is their way of getting the power.
Yeah. So, lots of things to mine from Falkovnia. The last thing we'd like to do in our parting thought section is the strength and challenges of running a game in this specific Star Wars inspired domain. Not Star Wars in general. We did that in the May the 4th episode.
Yes.
So if you want our general thoughts on running a game in Star Wars, a Ravenloft D&D game in Star Wars, you can listen to the May the 4th episode. But for this specific, the Imperium, the Dungeons and Dragons, Darth Vader's a Death Knight setting we've created, strengths and challenges. It is the very best. This is strengths. It's the best there is.
This is my favorite era of Star Wars.
It's most people's favorite era of Star Wars.
I know I'm not unique in this.
decades and decades of content, because, as I said, the core framework is so strong.
Yes.
And not just decades and decades of content, decades and decades of specifically RPGs. Like, probably millions of hours around tables, around the world, for decades and decades. If you added it all up, there would be maybe millions of hours of play in this era. And that's because not only it's the oldest, but because the amazing core plot engine of the Rebellion versus the Empire, and because the pulpy adventure tone can fit D&D so well. Like the mechanics in D&D, as we mentioned in the May the 4th episode, not the best for Star Wars combat, but like the tone and the style of story.
Yes.
Fits D&D so well.
Just the adventures that you're going to have, and so good.
The way you solve problems, the way things resolve themselves, the sort of very broad characters. You can imagine a lot of the characters in any given Star Wars movies are just a GM desperately doing voices. Maybe. Yeah, exactly, right? Or like kind of problematic Nemoidy, like kind of comes up with a voice and is like, boy, I wish I hadn't done that.
George Binks' voice comes out of his mouth. It's like, oh no, I'm stuck with it.
Oh, jeez. And this specifically, you have so many things to draw on, and you have I love you have the biggest range of tones. Because we keep saying you can do Rebels, you can do Andor. Both Rebels and Andor are about the pre-New Hope struggle against the Empire.
Yes.
One is an amazing kid show, one is an amazing adult show. Your game could be either of those. What about some of the challenges?
So this is not a Pirates of the Caribbean situation. It's going to sound like what I'm going to say.
For those of you just tuning in for Darth Vader, we did Pirates of the Caribbean last summer, I believe.
2 summers.
2 summers ago. And that was the first and up to this point only setting where we've been like, no.
There are no
0.
challenges.
This is perfect. This is perfect for Dungeons & Dragons, perfect for Ravenloft.
Yes.
So we're not quite there, as Rachel said. There
are no challenges that we could think of that are unique to this version of Star Wars. I feel like because this is the archetypal version of Star Wars.
Yeah, this is it, yeah.
When we talked about our Star Wars weaknesses in our May the 4th episode, those are all the weaknesses of this setting.
We were not like, and what is a specific weakness of the sequel trilogy? We were like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I can't think of any weaknesses that apply to the Imperium / the Galactic Empire specifically that don't apply to all of Star Wars. That sadly does not mean that there are no weaknesses.
Yeah,
but
go listen to May the 4th.
Go listen to May the 4th.
And there is, we did our best to circumvent this. We mentioned this way back at the top of the hour. Why you're not just playing Star Wars. Especially in this core, the most supported in all media and the most supported in tabletop RPG media, the Galactic Empire, the original trilogy / pre-original trilogy era. There's just play Star Wars.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
So live baby. You know how the Empire's super racist?
Yeah.
And like super pro-human? Because they're mulching magical creatures for the Death Star.
Ooh, I love it.
Because they want to, make sure that they're stirring up all of this resentment against magical creatures. Yeah. Because that way people don't mind if they're disappeared.
Elves all get cantrips. That makes them magic users.
It's better than nothing.
Tieflings get Eldritch Blood.
Maybe they'll be the ones who burn out, and it'll save us some of the guys who care about.
Yeah, right. We have spell levels. You don't just get, a free cantrip. But yeah, every elf has, a cantrip, so there you go. Every tiefling has some magical fire resistance. So there you go. I love it.
This is live, baby.
Live, baby. So, yes. But, other than that, and those weaknesses we talked about that are true to all Star Wars, there are no, special original trilogy era weaknesses. Yeah. Because it is so perfect.
It's the original trilogy, guys.
It's the best there is.
Star Wars. It's Star Wars.
It's the most Star Wars
It's the most Star Wars of all Star Wars. Oh, I love it so. I love it so.
If they want to hear about why I say that Rebels is the best Star Wars show, if not the best show in Star Wars.
And guys, if you want to hear about why I ship Thrawn and Hera so hard. Hera and Kanan, absolutely they're OTP. They're destined to be together. But
let the record show.
Did Thrawn and Hera have a side thing? I think they did.
No one can know for sure.
No one can know for sure.
Only AO3 knows for sure. How could they reach out to us with their questions about Rebels and Andor or their Thrawn era fanfic suggestions?
Please give me your Thrawn era fanfic suggestions. I think I've read all of them that are on AO3. If you have more, give me more. I love you too. Well, you can email us at wonderfulworldofdarklords@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Tumblr, or Patreon at Wonderful World of Dark Lords. And on YouTube, we're just Wonderful World of Dark Lord. Also, dear listeners, quick announcement. We have not forgotten about our second book club of Dread After Dark. We mentioned in the first one that it's going to be between Hotter Blood, which is the best anthology of the series and has a bunch of really good stories, or Dark Passions, which is gonzo and terrible. So we have a poll on our Patreon for which one we should do for our second book club of Dread After Dark. If you want more stories like Just a Phone Call Away and the Marilyn Monroe one, which I'm not going to name in the PG portion of the podcast, then you're going to want to vote for Hotter Blood. If you want more like a bunch of the rest of those stories were, then you're going to want to vote for Dark Passions. I do, as promised, have a complete bibliography for each one listed. So go to our Patreon. It's free for everyone. Vote. The vote will be open until our July episode.
And if you like how we adapted this into a more dark fantasy Ravenloft Dungeons and Dragons setting, I have adapted a couple horror movies and other Disney movies into mods. They're on DM's Guild. You can go to the free write-up for this domain, search for Tom Kohler, check more by this author on the write-up. And if you like our consideration for running it for children, then we also have a couple of resources on DM's Guild for running more spooky horror-themed stuff for children.
And speaking of spooky things for young people, I have a picture book, Mother Ghost, Nursery Rhymes for Little Monsters. It's exactly what it sounds like. 13 classic nursery rhymes written to be about Halloween. I also have several short stories for adults. You can find links to them on my website. Many of them are available for free. Sadly, you can no longer access what I think is my one and only published sci-fi story because the website went down. So I'm sorry, Default. You're gone. I need to just put the text of you up somewhere so people can read you, because you're gone.
Go to her website, find the text.
Yes.
Not safe for work.
It is not safe for work.
Until next time, thank you for listening. Happy gaming.
And may the Force be with you. Parting thoughts. I have, of course, refused to relinquish the signatures and passwords until the moment we need them. It is plausible that Afra or one of her crew are aware that I have used magic of my own, but they cannot rendezvous with their buyer without the information that only I possess. By the time I become expendable, we will have contraband on board that they will not want to subject to Imperial attention. This led to more invective against my mother, most of it true. She was somewhat mollified when I told her what I had seen on Geonosis. Afra has an insatiable thirst for knowledge, but primarily in the context of using her artificer skills to invent new ways of killing people. Her enthusiasm for the project made me suspect that there is good reason for artificers to be spared from the edict against casters, because the ones with her general mindset are at work on Geonosis now. Once the Citadel is complete, I suspect that artificers, too, will be fed to the machine they helped to create. I do not know what the ultimate purpose of that horrible fortress might be. Perhaps if I had been able to hear as well as to see, I would have overheard something of use, but the idea of sensing anything there with more clarity is enough to make my hands shake. There can be no doubt that Sidious's influence is here as well as in the Midrim. I am hard-pressed to think of anything I have encountered that felt so purely evil, even blunted as it was by distance. If that citadel is not of infernal origin, then nothing can be. I am also deeply troubled by the implications of Geonosis existing in two places simultaneously. Is the twisted magic of the fortress designed to somehow duplicate islands and bring them into Palpatine's empire? Or is the division between the Midrim and the Imperium not only one of distance, but of time? This would explain the Imperium's assertion that Count Dooku is dead, assuming there's any truth to it. As we prepare for our journey to the Outer Rim, I cannot help but think of the Jedi in the Midrim, fighting to their last breath for the regime that intends to destroy them. They're afraid the Republic will fall, but it already has, and they just can't see it. There's no justice, no law, no order, except the one that will replace it. Regards, D.
These incessant, conspicuous attempts to draw my ire are tiresome and puerile. Perhaps I should alter our arrangement and require all future reports to be delivered in person. That certainly would ensure no more ink and parchment were wasted on false bravado, though I confess amusement at your insistence of not being grateful for the assistance provided. If that were true, there would be no need to comment on its non-existence. No, a truly thankless individual would simply accomplish the work they were commissioned for and leave their fits of pique to themselves. Vader's history is indeed cloaked in shadows. There is considerably more to him than mere ambition, however. It comes as no surprise that my servant refused to see beyond the exterior and placed her judgment upon him with nothing more than anecdotal knowledge regarding his character. Further systematic research may provide the details. I shall not. His story is, much like Count Dooku's, not unique. Love often inspires us to act in manners that others deem inconceivable. What my servant felt while surveying the Black Citadel, even from a vast distance, speaks of her sensitivity to magic, not her sentimentality. Some are more prone to its influence, and given my servant's experiences as a youth and her emotional nature, it affects her more than most. Within the walls of the Black Citadel, magic is exploited in all its forms. Magic is a source of infinite possibilities, and the Imperium would waste this potential in favor of wanton destruction. The sheer amount of energy contained within a single space is not only dangerous, but reckless. I have no doubt that a minor disruption in the Black Citadel's infrastructure could cause the entire thing to collapse, resulting in all of the negative energy stored therein turning in on itself.
This has been The Wonderful World of Dark Lords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode are in the public domain and were obtained through museopen.org. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Azalin Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at darklordazalin. The Wonderful World of Dark Lords logo was designed by Haylight Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.
Rachel, what do you do with it?
Thrawn. You do Thrawn.
I'm cutting that. I need to PG podcast.
It could be an outtake.